start with chapter 1.4. Okay, and in chapter 1.4, I'll first start with this Lamarckism. Session would be a combination of both revision of basics. Along with revision of basics, let us also try to see certain advanced concepts which might not have been asked as questions till now, but there is a probability that questions might appear in this year examination. And I'll also try to touch upon some PYQ themes. PYQ themes are a bit repetitive in nature, still we will also touch upon PYQ themes. So I also would expect some amount of contribution from you also, because I know I am fully conscious I am not sitting with beginners. I am sitting with students who have completed attending classes once. Try. It's not that you have to force yourself to answer. Try to give answers as and when I ask, and try to contribute to the discussion. Let it be what you call. Let me also learn some things from you. In this process, I'll also try to give something. Let it be a mutual, a symbiotic kind of relationship. So Lamarck, we all know, comes under the pre-Darwinian phase, Darwinian phase, post-Darwinian phase. We have to situate Lamarck in this pre-Darwinian phase. Agree with me? So that's one keyword students often miss writing in introductions. Do not ignore mentioning this term. He belongs to pre-Darwinian phase of theorization of organic evolution. Okay? So this is one simple but important keyword, but students often don't write in answers. Organic evolution, biological evolution. Use these terms generously. Okay. Now, what are the core theories of Lamarck? First theory of use and disuse. Then theory of needs, then theory of inheritance of acquired characteristics, isn't it? What Lamarck believes? Lamarck believes, there will be some environmental changes. And because of this environmental changes, organisms will develop that need. In some books, they use this term appetency, like that. And this need will stimulate development of organs, greater use and greater disuse. Use in turn in the long run will consolidate into evolution. This is something very basic we all know about Lamarckism, isn't it? Environmental changes will stimulate a need, also called as appetency. This in turn will stimulate development of organs, and as the organs continue to be used, it would lead to evolution. Disuse would lead to degeneration. Okay, in your books, what do you read as the biggest strength of Lamarckism? Biggest strength of Lamarckism is explanation of existence of vestigial organs, isn't it? Different vestigial organs, even in humans, whether it is appendix or semilunar fold in the medial side of the eyes, wisdom teeth, this goosebumps, all these are various examples of how the application of Lamarck's theory of disuse is there. That is explained through vestigial organs. Till this point, it's easy. Now, what is the biggest problem with Lamarck? And the biggest problem is also the important criticism on Lamarck. So who has given the most important criticism on Lamarck? Very good. August Weismann. August Weismann has given the biggest criticism on Lamarck. Before August Weismann, let's also try to go one by one. This was identified as unscientific. There is nothing like a need. There is nothing like a need. Let's say if we all started to feel the need that we have to fly in the next 2 years, can we fly? We can't fly, right? So the idea of need or theory of need is considered as debunked now. Then coming to theory of inheritance of acquired characteristics, theory of inheritance of acquired characteristics. This also is challenged by August Weismann. So what did August Weismann propose? August Weismann proposed, what is the theory of August Weismann? Germplasm theory, right? August Weismann proposed germplasm theory. So what does germplasm theory of August Weismann say? Simple. Germplasm theory of August Weismann say, in a human body there are both germ cells and also somatic cells or vegetative cells. Germ cells and somatic cells and also vegetative cells. Only those changes which occur in germ cells can be inherited to the next generation, whereas the changes that happen in the somatic cells often do not move to the next generation. You will get more clarity after we discuss neo-Lamarckism and also epigenetics in connection to Lamarckism. So for time being, remember that August Weismann's criticism on Lamarck is that Lamarck is not aware of the fact that only those changes which occur in the germ cells will inherit to the future generations, is the criticism levied by August Weismann. Now, let us also briefly see what neo-Lamarckists try to do. So what is that major correction which neo-Lamarckists do? Anywhere neo means what? Accepting the previous theory and making correction in the previous. Neo-Darwinism, neo-Lamarckism, neo-evolutionism, wherever the neo comes, principle is simple. Accepting some fallacies in the previous theory and developing upon those fallacies is the idea. Now, neo-Lamarckists openly acknowledge that this need is unscientific, but neo-Lamarckists believe that environment can stimulate changes in the organism. Environment can create or environment is responsible for genetic variation. Environment is responsible for genetic variation, and which means in a way they did not try to confront Darwinism. They said environment also is a source of genetic variation. From there, natural selection will act upon the genetic variation and would further contribute to evolution. Neo-Lamarckism did not extend its scope beyond that. They said even environment can be a source of genetic variation. Coming to the present times, a relatively recent research, and some of you must be already aware of this idea, is this idea called as epigenetic inheritance. Before that, we should know what is epigenetics, okay, and mutations. This is an important concept. There is a possibility of this question coming in this year exam also, because this is one concept which is very important, which is waiting to be asked. Students have to know this, and definitely they'll ask this question sooner than later. Mutations, very simple. The knowledge we used to have till today is only a change in the DNA structure only a change in the DNA structure, nothing but a change in the gene structure would manifest as change in the function of the gene, isn't it? Generally, what is believed? One gene, one protein hypothesis. A defective gene is a defective protein, is a defective phenotype or a defective characteristic or a defective trait is what general commonsensical understanding. What we used to think is any defect in the genetic structure, especially any alteration in the sequence of the genes, would, because of mutation or other changes, that would lead to a change in the functions of the gene. But what epigenetic inheritance believes certain epigenetic tags, certain epigenetic tags can come and attach to the gene or a DNA. Epigenetic tags, which are external tags, most common type of epigenetic tags is methyl tags, methyl groups or methyl tags. Other examples are, histone protein modifications. Histone proteins are the proteins around which usually the DNA wraps. Any kind of, the tightness or the looseness with which DNA wraps around the histone proteins can also possibly determine the functional expressivity. I'll come to that. This much of biology is not needed, but this you definitely need to know. Attachment of the methyl groups, any malfunctioning of histone proteins, all these things can possibly lead to a change in the functional expressivity of the gene without necessarily altering the structure of the gene. A functional expression or a functional expressivity of the gene, a functional expression or functional expressivity of the gene is altered without an alteration in the structure of the gene. You got my point? Such a thing is called as epigenetics or epimutations. Some of you may be thinking, why should we learn this biology? You have to learn this biology because it is important. What exactly are these epigenetic tags? These epigenetic tags are nothing but the environmental aspects. It could be stress, it could be poor diet, or it could be various environmental pollutants, it could be smoking, it could be alcohol. It is these external agents which convert into epigenetic tags. These epigenetic tags attach to the gene without necessarily altering the structure of the gene, have impact on the functional expressivity of the gene. To explain it in more simple language, they are in a way affecting the potential, genetic potential. Every gene has a potential, right? Every gene has a potential. Every gene has a potential. And every gene has a potential and every gene has to manifest itself fully. But some external agents coming, attaching to the gene without altering the structure of the gene, but still altering the functional expression of the gene or are having impact on the functional expression of the gene, is what we are seeing in the current times. So even people are born with or people are endowed with good quality genes. Because of the external situations, people are fully not manifesting their genetic potential. So in that context, epigenetics and epimutations like histone protein modification or methyl groups are going to be important for your exam. Understood my point? This is actually real anthropology. One level, epigenetic inheritance. Epigenetic inheritance is also important. What is this epigenetic inheritance? You all know genetic inheritance. What is genetic inheritance? In the genetic inheritance, genes move from one generation to another generation, isn't it? Sperm fuses with ova, and this is how, 23, 46 chromosomes, and this is how, genes move across the generations and determine the traits or characteristics. We all know this. This is too basic, too fundamental. But what you also should know is it's not that the genes that get inherited, it is also now understood that epigenetic tags also has the potential to get inherited. Epigenetic tags also has the potential to get inherited. The next question that should occur in your mind, sir, what is anthropology here? there is definitely an anthropological context to it. Try to understand. Let's assume a pregnant mother smoking. Pregnant mother smoking is introducing epigenetic tags into her body. Her body actually carries a baby. Baby has ovaries. Baby also has ovaries, right? So in one go, she is introducing epigenetic tags to her baby and the ovaries in her baby. So at one go, she is directly impacting two generations. You understand my point? So like this, epigenetic tags can also travel across generations. That is epigenetic inheritance, which means certain lack of discipline in food habits or exposure to certain harmful chemicals in one generation might possibly move across the generations, isn't it? Now experiments are being actively conducted. Those people who are the victims of World War II, and is the impact of post World War trauma is still felt in the contemporary generations, is an important area of research in the context of epigenetic inheritance. They are trying to understand this, understand the patterns. This individual might not be having the direct impact of this particular disaster, but possibly the epigenetic tags might be moving across the generations that might still have impact on the genetic potential or fully manifesting the genetic potential is the new area of research or new area of study. Got my point? I think this much of information is sufficient for Lamarck. Okay, so additional topics which you have to read if you have not read till now is Neo-Lamarckism, epigenetic inheritance, and also epigenetic mutations. Got my point? Yes. Then let's go to the next topic. Next topic is obviously I'll go to Darwinism only. Darwinism. So Darwinism primarily it is also called as theory of natural selection, isn't it? So natural selection acts upon what? Variation. Natural selection acts upon variation. First 5 minutes we will spend on basics, then we will get into any advanced ideas surrounding it. Natural selection acts upon variation. And yes, in every species, generally there will be overproduction. This is also one of the proposal Darwin says. There will be overproduction, means there is a tendency to produce more than what ecosystem can support, and among them there will be some variation, and there could be variation, and some among them have better adaptive capabilities, and as they have better adaptive capabilities, what will happen? Nature will select them. And whichever are selected by nature, such species will survive. It is nothing but survival of the fittest. So you all must be already aware, when Darwin is saying all these things in 1840s, 50s, 60s, that is the Darwin's time, Darwin does not know what a gene is. Darwin does not have a microscope, isn't it? Darwin does not know anything. Darwin is just a naturalist. By observing nature or by observing what's happening in the nature, he made these proposals of theory of natural selection or survival of the fittest. So this is the proposal made by Darwin in the context of biological evolution or organic evolution. Got my point? He's also a Victorian scholar at that point of time. We'll come to that a bit later. So I'll get into the specifics, because what is the biggest criticism on Darwin? Could Darwin explain the source of variation? No, Darwin could not explain the source of variation. That is the biggest criticism on Darwin. And there are many other aspects also Darwin could not explain. First, we will try to see in the later date who has explained the source of variation. I'll give that clarity also on what is neo-Darwinism and what is synthetic theory of evolution. For time being, just let's explore the concept. In the end, we will try to bring all under one roof and tell something is synthesis, something is neo-Darwinism. Okay, first things first. What are the sources of variation? Tell me quickly. Yeah, mutation. So, who proposed this theory of mutation? Huh? Hugo de Vries proposed the theory of mutation. What are the other sources of variation? Genetic recombination or chromosomal crossing over. Genetic recombination or chromosomal crossing over is the another source of variation. Agree with me? Two important sources of variation. Then, so these two, what is the difference between these two? This is producing variation. What about this? This is amplifying the variations, isn't it? Just like your probability theory. Let's say there are three A, X, Y, Z. How many probabilities you can get out of it? Or there are 5 possibilities, X, Y, Z, A, B. You can get more variety out of it. It amplifies, isn't it? Once these variants are created by mutation, especially in sexually reproducing organisms, because at the time of meiosis, every time genetic recombination or chromosomal crossing over, what it does is it amplifies the variation. Then there is also one more source of variation, not a very important source, but albeit worth mentioning is, try to communicate. You should try to add. Hybridization also is a source of variation, right? Hybridization also acts as a source of variation. Then, as these three are acting as a source of variation, then what is the next most important thing? There are certain aspects like migration, we can also call it gene flow, also called as gene flow, and to some extent genetic drift. What are these doing to the variation? They are distributing the variation or reshuffling the variation. They are distributing the variations or reshuffling the variation. So I'm just curious, what will happen in genetic drift or Sewall-Wright effect? Genetic drift or Sewall-Wright effect increases the diversity or decreases the diversity? Decreases the diversity, right? Why? Because in a random chance event, you take either founder effect or you take bottleneck effect. You take either founder effect or you take bottleneck effect. In both cases, genetic diversity will only get reduced. That is the reason why African population, present generation African population has more diversity than the diversity of the rest of the world. Because those are our original population. And ancestral stock has migrated from Africa to the rest of the world, isn't it? Modern Homo sapiens, isn't it? Originated from Africa. From there, they moved to different parts of the world. They are our founder population. They are the original population. From there, a group of founders moved to the rest of the world. So, highest genetic diversity is in Africa. That is why genetic drift or Sewall-Wright effect would lead to a decrease in the diversity. This you must have already heard. Then, of course, other things which happened after Darwin are aspects like, isolation concept as proposed by Wegener. It could be both behavioral isolation and also geographical isolation. Geographical isolation leading to what type of speciation? Sympatric speciation. All these types of speciations are there, right? Isolation is again of two types. Geographical isolation and you have behavioral isolation and each of them isolation in turn leading to speciation. But between isolation and speciation, one important aspect is adaptation, isn't it? There must be adaptive features. there must be adaptive features. There must be adaptive features. Only when there are adaptive features after isolation, it would lead to the event of speciation mediated through natural selection. So all these events happened because of after Darwin. And at some point of time here, population geneticists have come and they try to bring concept like change in the allelic frequency. What is a gene pool? First of all, you all should know gene pool is sum total of all genes in the population. We will again revise this in chapter 9.3. Sum total of all genes in the population, and sum total of all genes in the population, and any change in the allelic frequency of the gene pool would lead to microevolutionary changes. And all these events like migration, genetic drift, mutation, genetic recombination, all of them are contributing to the changes in the allelic frequency. Of course, this what do you call sexual selection also is one aspect. Sexual selection, apart from natural selection, sexual selection also would contribute to a change in the genetic pools. So these are various aspects, and add to that isolation, adaptation would in turn lead to speciation. All these things we attribute to post-Darwinian developments. In post-Darwinian developments, we have all these people contributing, starting from Mendel's laws of genes, then of course mutation theory of De Vries, then you have contributions by population biologists, population geneticists, population biologists, population geneticists, mathematicians, all of them contributed to our understanding of it. So, in most of the textbooks, neo-Darwinism and synthetic theory of evolution are considered one and the same, but there is a subtle difference. Even if you write both of them are same, examiner will not penalize you. Usually, neo-Darwinism is nothing but Darwinism plus criticizing of Lamarckism by August Weismann, and Darwinism, germplasm theory, both put together will become neo-Darwinism. Neo-Darwinism is not a very new or young theory. It is as old as 1890s, 1900s. But the real synthetic theory, which is mentioned by Julian Huxley in his book, I have mentioned all those in the handout which I give to you. Don't worry about those facts. So real is Julian Huxley. He tried to consolidate everything. Consolidate means all these aspects by specifically talking about the source of variation, by specifically talking about how the variations are redistributed, and again combining the phenomena like isolation, adaptation and speciation would all become this synthetic theory of evolution, right? Before I dictate some facts to you, you also should be aware of certain aspects like what is punctuated equilibrium and what is gradualism. Who supports punctuated equilibrium? Who supports gradualism? Charan, who supports punctualism? Yeah. Punctualism is supported by mutationists. Punctualism is supported by mutationists. Gradualism is supported by natural selection. Simple. How? Let's say, what is punctuated equilibrium? Very simple. Punctuated equilibrium means evolution happens like punctuations. There will be periods of no significant activity. Suddenly mutation occurs, and suddenly because of the mutations, evolution happens. Again there will be period of no evolution. Again mutation appears. This is punctuated equilibrium as proposed by mutationists as an important type of evolution. Whereas what does this gradualism, they believe that evolution primarily happens through natural selection in a gradual manner. That separates gradualism and punctualism. That is the difference between punctuated equilibrium and gradualism. So this is a debate between the mutationists versus selectionists. Each of them claiming that their model is most appropriate or more appropriate in explaining organic evolution. What is the current model which is even more popular? Current model which is even more popular? Current model, yes. Current model which is even more popular is neutral theory of chimera. Current model which is even more popular is neutral theory of chimera, right? What does neutral theory of chimera claim? Neutral theory of chimera claims yes, neutral theory of chimera claims as these mutationists are claiming mutation is not actually a very important source of evolution, or as natural selectionists are claiming natural selection is not the only source of evolution. Be very clear, neutral theory of chimera does not it's not like it discredit the role of natural selection and mutation. They accept both of them are happening. Both of them are contributing to evolution. But according to neutral theory of chimera, it is the neutral mutations, to be little more precise, the random changes or the genetic drift is the most important contributing factor to evolution. Random changes or genetic drift is the most important factor that contributes to the organic evolution according to neutral theory of chimera. This can be a good concluding lines. The contemporary understanding says the neutral mutation that would lead to random neutral mutations are not in the nature of mutations on which natural selection actively acts upon. Many of the mutations have no value at all, they just keep happening. Simply put, he says, what is the real source of real source of evolution? Real source of evolution is just random changes, which is nothing but genetic drift. So it is the relatively recent theory which believes that mutation, of course, is responsible. Natural selection, of course, is responsible. But the most important source of evolution is genetic drift, as given by chimera. Is that clear? Yes. Now, after understanding this, I also want you to read some new developments because of late the paper has become a bit dynamic. I'll not get into depth of those, but I'll kind of make you guys exposed to those specifics. I'll not take much time also. I'll just take 2 to 3 minutes for each of those ideas. Be aware of it. They're actually not difficult to understand. They are just extensions of what you already know. One possibility, they may be asked as a question. Second possibility, they can help you in writing conclusions or they can help you in writing contemporary relevance. Got my point? So that what I want to discuss is extended evolutionary hypothesis. Okay, extended evolutionary hypothesis. Some of the recent textbooks in anthropology are writing about this. I'll not get into too much of biology or genetics, but I'll only talk things which actually you are supposed to know. Extended evolutionary hypothesis. I'll start with one important theory of extended evolutionary hypothesis, niche construction theory. This niche construction theory is also important for your archaeological anthropology. I try to bring this context again there. Niche construction is a very simple idea. It's the recent theory. Niche construction theory is like this. Humans modify environment. Okay? Humans does not passively respond to environment, not just passively respond to environment. Humans are also capable of modifying environment. And this modified environment creates new selection pressures. This modified environment creates new selection pressures And this new selection pressures created by modified environment further directs evolution. That's it. That is niche construction hypothesis. Niche construction hypothesis, which believes in the human's ability to create new cultural or new environmental niches. New environmental niches. Okay, this is also important in another chapter. I'll bring it to the discussion there again. Humans modified the environment, and this modified environment creates new selection pressures, which in turn directs evolution. Is the niche construction theory. One simple example I give is lactose persistence or amylase gene. Amylase gene. See, we from Neolithic period, what we started to do: domestication of plants, domestication of animals. Did we not alter the environment? We did alter. We have modified the environment. As we have modified the environment, it created a new selection pressure, which in turn has directed the course of our evolution. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. That explains niche construction theory. There is another interesting theory called as we study this as part of that. Okay, as part of what you call ecological anthropology also, we discuss about niche construction theory. It's an extension of that. That's why I said it. We will again bring it into discussion as well. Yes. I said that's the reason I said archaeological anthropology. Archaeological anthropology is all about how material aspects determine human culture and how they interact with human biology, right? Yes. Now, one such theory, it might appear slightly technical, but it is important. Try to understand. Evo-Devo hypothesis. Evo-Devo hypothesis. Listen carefully. Evo-Devo hypothesis, it is like this. Developmental process. Usually you come across this term in ecological anthropology. Developmental process and its role in evolution. So what is that developmental process and what is its role in evolution? Simple. In our body, not just in our body, in all in all living species, there are a type of genes called as HOX genes. These HOX genes are a kind of very conservative genes. Very conservative in the sense they are not easily mutated or they are not easily modified. The reason why most of the species remain as they are for a long period of time is the fact that they have this fundamental genes called as HOX genes, which does not largely alter. I know it's getting a bit genetical, but be a little patient for a while. And this HOX genes has one possibility. Anything which has the potential to alter or regulate the expression of these genes, will manifest as a change in the phenotype. And whenever there is a change in the phenotype, it acts as a raw material for natural selection. Isn't it phenotypic variation? Natural selection acts on phenotypic variation only, right? Natural selection acts on this phenotypic variation and would lead to evolution. Simple. Across all the organisms, there are certain types of genes called as HOX genes. These genes are a bit conservative. They don't easily mutate, they don't easily change, they just remain as they are. But certain developments might potentially modify or alter the regulation of their expression. When their expressions get regulated without any basic change in the genetic structure or without any basic genetic mutation, it might possibly have impact on the overall phenotype of a particular organism. And when there is a change in the phenotype, it it is possible that natural selection may act upon them. And one way of explaining this particular evo is probably the change in the size of the human skulls. Probably the change in the size of the human skulls. People mention that in the course of human evolution, as there is a change, especially increasing the size of the skulls happen. Not every time major genetic changes have happened, but still we observe a change in the size of the skulls. This could probably be explained by this evo hypothesis. Actually, not difficult, very simple. Just remember that HOX genes, they have this potential to determine the phenotype without actually without necessitating any genetic structural change, creating phenotypic variation. Natural selection act upon the phenotypic variation, contributing to evolution. It's that's it, nothing more, nothing less. Then as part of extended evolutionary synthesis only, we have this epigenetic inheritance, which you guys have just learned now. And there is another interesting concept called as plasticity. Plasticity, genetic plasticity. This also is recently, this is very easy. What is genetic plasticity? Genetic plasticity is very well explained by, or very well related to this ecological anthropology. Genetic plasticity means, see, not every time a phenotypic change happens because of underlying genetic change, which means a given gene can possibly, just one single gene can still produce different types of phenotypes by a change in the environment. A change in the environment is sufficient. So environment 1, environment 2, environment 3, environment 4, different environments, same gene producing different phenotypes. You understand the point I am trying to say? Let's say an individual is born in coastal climate, and if this individual, as soon as he is born, if he is taken to a high altitude climate, and if individual grows in the high altitude climate, both are in our syllabus, right? High altitude climate is the coastal climate. So the individual manifests, or the individual develops a different phenotype. We call them developmental adjustments. They are not genetic adaptations. They are not physiological changes or acclimatization changes. Physiological changes, acclimatization changes are temporary. They are reversible. Genetic adaptations are permanent to the extent that they manifest across the generations. Something in between is developmental adjustments. Developmental adjustments which are permanent for that individual in that generation only. You got my point? Changes did not happen at the level of genes. First phase is physiological, short term in nature. They are reversible. You go on a tripping to high altitude, certain changes you develop. As soon as you come back, they are reversible, nothing significant. Some genetic adaptations, let's say over thousands of years, some people are living on high altitude climate, they would have developed permanent genetic adaptations. Some are in the nature of developmental adjustments. Within the same generation, if the individual is born with one type of genes, but is growing up in a different type of environment, might end up manifesting a different type of phenotype modified by environment. Understand my point? That is plasticity. In your ecological anthropology also, we make a mention of this genetic plasticity. That again is a recent introduction to the extended evolutionary synthesis. Okay. Then one last concept as part of this is inclusive inheritance. Very interesting concept which will help you in writing wonderful conclusions. Inclusive inheritance. Try to understand. Concepts like this will enhance your analytical depth of the subject. Inclusive inheritance. Inclusive inheritance accepts that we are not just inheriting our genes, we are not just inheriting our epigenes, we are also inheriting our culture, we are also inheriting our environment or niche. So, the best way of studying inheritance is not just studying genes. Inheritance is such an inclusive phenomenon. Okay? We inherit our genes, we inherit our epigenes, we inherit the culture, isn't it? We are all born into a culture, right? Less like that, we are all born into a particular type of niche. Whether you will be born in whether you will be born in a society where consumption of grains is more, or whether consumption of wheat is more, whether you are born in a hunter-gatherer tribe, also determine your ultimate phenotypical expression, right? So inclusive inheritance is a concept that a human being is a product of his genes, his epigenes, his culture. If you carefully understand, I am trying to talk nothing but gene culture, I mean extension of gene culture, co-evolution or dual inheritance theory, isn't it? And but this is much more comprehensive, and the niche, ecological niche or an environmental niche an individual is part of, that explains the idea of inclusive inheritance. Inclusive inheritance. Okay, so all this fall under this idea of extended evolutionary synthesis. Evo, plasticity, niche construction, inclusive inheritance, epigenetic inheritance, all these aspects. Okay, then just take 1 minute time before I dictate some facts. Read what all you have read till now. Take 1 minute time. Not reversible, right? In that particular generation, it's not reversible. This individual, once he has developed this adjustment, it's fixed. Let's say big thorax. If the individual has acquired big thorax growing up in a high altitude climate, there is no way again in this lifetime he can contract the size of the thorax. It is fixed for this generation. Okay? Yes. That's what you can. Everything actually is there in our syllabus in other chapters. In this chapter, we are not studying. In ecological anthropology, you have to learn the concept of genetic plasticity. You understood my point? Evo-Devo hypothesis also. Evo-Devo hypothesis will help in chapter 9.1, 9.2, 9.3 also. Everything is like you can write it. Niche construction is important in cultural ecology. Niche construction is important in what do you call ecological anthropology, archaeological anthropology. So anywhere or everywhere these ideas are important. Okay, yeah. You'll get more clarity after discussing some basic concepts. Then what we will try to do is entire 1.4 chapter in 5-10 minutes we will apply to 1.6. Entire 1.4 we will apply to 1.6. Then you will understand how much these two chapters are integrated. Our general tendency is to see them as distinct chapters. You will understand that you have to read both of them together, not as a separate entities. Okay. Done? Okay. Now we will not waste so much time on it. We will quickly in 5 minutes see all these evolutionary concepts are there. Dolos. We will just see whatever are important for exam. Certain things they may not ask in exam. Yeah, it is similar to epigenetics, but in case of Evo-Devo hypothesis, if we will go to the embryo level, this HOX genes on the embryo level. Okay, I did not deliberately touch upon that because that becomes little biology. That happens at the embryo level changes. It's not just about epigenetics, it's much more than epigenetics. Phenomenon might be same, but causative factors are different. I mean, the process might be the same, but causative factors are different, right? No. So you only tell me what is Dollo's rule? Dollo's law of irreversibility, right? Dollo's law of irreversibility. Dollo's law of irreversibility means evolution always happens in an orthogenetic way or in a linear way, and it's not possible to be reversible. Not very important. They never asked in the recent times. Then what is Copy's rule? Copy's rule? Yeah. In mammals especially, there is a tendency of increase in size in the course of macroevolution. In the course of macroevolution among mammals, there is a general tendency of increase in the size. Increase in the size. But do we have exceptions for that? Yeah, we have a couple of exceptions for that. Okay. So Copy's rule is very simple. In mammals, in a macro time scale, in macroevolution, there is a general tendency of increase in the size of the body of the organism. That's it. Copy's rule. That's why they'll not ask these kind of questions for 10 markers. Then, this is important. Mosaic evolution. What is mosaic evolution? Mosaic evolution says evolution and especially selection pressures, evolution, especially selection pressures operate differently on different organ systems. Operate differently on different organ systems. Evolution, especially selection pressures, operate differently on different organ systems. How can we connect this to human evolution? Very good. In case of human evolution, what is the first important change that happened? Changes in the pelvis skeleton, changes in the foot skeleton. Changes in the pelvis skeleton or changes in the foot skeleton were the first to happen. Whereas it took more time for encephalization to happen, isn't it? So which is the first to happen? Changes in the pelvic skeleton or foot skeleton. Simply put, we got bipedalism first. After bipedalism, of course, we got an intelligent brain. Intelligent brain. So like this, mosaic evolution is nothing but evolution, especially selection pressure operates differently on different organ system. It could be, it operates differently on digestive system. It operates differently, let's say fire.
From the previous evolutionary hypothesis.
Yeah.
This delay can be due to Hox genes.
This delay can be due to
cranial changes delay. Is it due to,
it could be due to Hox genes. Even I read somewhere. It could be also due to Hox genes, especially within a given phenotype or within a given organism, a minute changes in or minute increases in the sizes or shapes could possibly be attributed to Evo hypothesis. Yes, correct. Now coming back, so this is nothing but mosaic evolution where let's take stomach or digestive system. First, fire. People started consuming fire. So because of fire, what happened? We started eating cooked food. Cooked food, easy to chew, so you don't need a robust masticatory apparatus. You don't need a bulky mandible, bulky maxillae, or you don't need strong teeth. Simply put, you don't need a strong jaw. Isn't it? That led to a more space in the oral cavity, better ability to move the tongue, better production of sounds, better language when compared to other species. Isn't it? Simultaneously, along with these changes also happened in the digestive tract. Why? Because we no longer need to eat tough to digest food. We no longer have to eat tough to digest food. So changes also have occurred in the digestive system as we started to consume cooked food and as we started to move more towards omnivorous diet. Especially we started becoming more carnivorous. We started to eat more of the cooked food. That led to changes in the digestive system. Same thing happened with the Neolithic Revolution. With Neolithic Revolution, from before that it's largely protein diet in the form of meat. From then, by the time of Neolithic, we moved to predominantly carbohydrate based diet. So again, digestive system have developed changes to accommodate to that carbohydrate based diet. So this way, different organ systems evolve in different way. Okay, for that matter, even at present times also, this evolutionary developments keep manifesting differently. Okay, that is mosaic evolution. Then quickly tell me the different. What is the adaptive radiation?
Within a certain ecosystem, due to different environmental changes, there is a certain border where certain species evolve more, grow more.
It's not environmental changes, same environment. Difference is ecological niches, not environmental changes. Be clear about it. That's one common mistake students commit. Let's say a common ancestral species, I'm talking primate radiation, adaptive radiation, adaptive radiation. Common ancestral stock, when they have an opportunity of different ecological niches, what they do is they immediately, quickly, rapidly diversify or radiate into distinctive species. They are all genetically related. Genetically, they all have a common ancestor. But they have plenty of new ecological niches and they start to exploit new ecological niches and they rapidly diversify in a short amount of time into distinctive species. That is called as adaptive radiation. Classical example of adaptive radiation is as explained by Darwin's finches in Galapagos Island. Among primates also we have a beautiful example of adaptive radiation, right? Which primates? Especially lemurs. As they move to Madagascar, in Madagascar, which has got recently separated from the main plate of Africa, there are plenty of ecological niches available. So this led to rapid diversification of lemur species. That's one good example of adaptive radiation which we see in primates, also. Lemurs is a good example. Lemurs radiation in Madagascar also is a good example of it. Okay, then read more about it. It's an important topic, adaptive radiation. Osborn proposed this concept called as adaptive radiation. Quickly we will see the difference between convergent evolution and divergent evolution. So convergent evolution produces what type of structures? Yes, please. Convergent evolution produces what type of structures? Divergent evolution produces what type of structures? Simple. Convergent evolution produces analogous structures. Divergent evolution produces homologous structures. Divergent evolution produces homologous structures. Convergent evolution, analogous structure. What are the examples? Very good. Example of convergent evolution is a housefly, a bat, a bird might have wings. That doesn't mean that the fundamental structure or the basic structure is the same for all. They're all different, isn't it? They might have functional similarity but structural dissimilarity, and they are genetically different. Functional similarity is there. Only functional similarity is there. But structurally they are different because they are genetically distant. Then divergent evolution, they will develop structures which are functionally different but the fundamental structure is same. What are the examples? Fundamental structure is same. Good example is pentadactyly, seen in all mammals and also birds. Pentadactyl structure. If you cut open and see a whale, which is a mammal, or an ungulate, which is a mammal, or a primate, which is a mammal, all of them have the fundamental structure of pentadactyly. Pentadactyly means 5-finger structure, which is also seen in birds. Because of their less genetic distance or genetic similarity, they produce these homologous structures. Then what is a good example of a parallel evolution? Parallel evolution. Parallel evolution. Simple. Genetically similar species. Parallel evolution is nothing but genetically similar species, different geographies, but similar environment. Different geographies but similar environment produce similar structures. Genetically similar, geographies are different and distant, but environmentally same, so producing similar structures. That is nothing but parallel evolution. What is a good example of a parallel evolution? Good example of parallel evolution in our syllabus? Yes, old world monkeys, new world monkeys, right? Old world monkeys and new world monkeys are a good example of parallel evolution. Got it? Yes. So all these are the various things. These are too basic for your level, but I thought it will be good to revise once, so you can, going back home, you can quickly revise old world monkeys and new world monkeys. Okay. Now let's spend some time and quickly revise or try to see how we connect concepts of chapter 1.4 to 1.6. Let's see the first thing. Australopithecus. In Australopithecus, do we have scope for gene culture co-evolution? In Australopithecus, we don't have any scope for gene culture co-evolution because it does not have any significant culture. Osteodontoceratic culture has nothing great to talk about or nothing great to mention about it. But the real cultural development we can attribute to Homo habilis. Homo habilis. Okay, this guy is a handyman, isn't it? Handyman. Probably this guy has extensively produced and used all-the-one tools. Some argue that Australopithecus Ghadi is the first to use all-the-one tools, but wider use undoubtedly is attributed to Homo habilis handyman because of the fact that this guy is using hand to produce tools. Definitely there is a significant improvement in the hand-eye coordination, and this hand-eye coordination further led to increase in the size of the brain also, simultaneously increase in the size of the brain. So this is one good example of gene culture co-evolution. He has brought this cultural aspect of extensively using tools, which in turn has produced a genetic change through a probable increase in the size of the brain. That is gene culture coevolution we can learn. Then let's go one concept after other. Let's see this idea of geographical isolation, how geographical isolation happens, and how geographical isolation can contribute to speciation. Okay, according to our textbook, subject to correction we'll do a little later, it is believed that classical Neanderthals, there was a debate that classical Neanderthal and progressive Neanderthal are distinct. Now, of course, the debate is settled, identified that both of them does not have significant differences, but no doubt classical Neanderthal and progressive Neanderthal definitely have some changes. The reason being geographical isolation, which in turn created environmental differences. There is Pyrenees Mountains in the middle. This Pyrenees Mountains prevented gene flow. This Pyrenees Mountains prevented gene flow or prevented migration, and also to the south of Pyrenees Mountains the temperatures are much more colder. The temperatures are much more colder. That's why classic Neanderthals have built typical Neanderthalite features like stocky build, likewise short, stocky build, bulk jaws, bulk body, likewise. Whereas the progressive Neanderthals evolved to be, progressive Neanderthals come close to West Asia, Central Asia, and they are exposed to less harsh climatic conditions, less harsh glacial conditions. So they have evolved to be more slender. They have evolved to be more slender. Some also believe that these progressive Neanderthals could have possibly hybridized with some African some early archaic Homo sapiens. We'll talk about it later. Here I want to just introduce you to the idea that in the course of human evolution also geographical isolation, subspeciation, these kind of phenomenon got manifested. Got my point? Take the example of genetic drift. Genetic drift. First we will see this popular founders effect. Founders effect is easiest to explain. Why? Because founders effect is easy to explain. Why? Because it is at the Africa that the origin of modern Homo sapiens happened. We will discuss African multi-regionalism or Pan-African hypothesis or African meta-population hypothesis later in the class. But one point we all know is modern Homo sapiens took its origin in Africa, and from there a group of founder populations moved to different parts of the world. They colonized different parts of the world, adapted to the local environmental conditions or made best use of the local ecological niches and have evolved there separately. So that is the reason we have the highest genetic diversity in Africa when compared to the genetic diversity in the other parts of the world. So chapter 1.4 founders effect can be understood through human evolution. Then you have this bottleneck effect. Bottleneck effect. If you carefully read some of the factors that contributed to the extinction of the Neanderthals, one of the factors that harsh weather is there, but there is this catastrophe, right? One catastrophe happened, and even Toba catastrophe also has happened. Toba catastrophe, one volcanic eruption has cooled down at the temperatures for a significant period of time, and this led to substantial narrowing down of the human population and led to a substantial decline of the human genetic diversity in various parts of the world. We'll talk more about it in another context. So even turbo catastrophe theory or terror fear, different catastrophes which happened also has contributed to an incline or decline, sorry, especially a decline of the human genetic diversity. So genetic drift also can be explained in case of human evolution. Then mosaic evolution we already discussed, we can explain mosaic evolution also in the case of human evolution. Then migration also we can explain. Anything else we missed out? Genetic drift, mutations. What is a good example of a mutation in human evolution? Many mutations, right, that further contribute evolution. Let's take FOXP2 gene. FOXP2 gene is a mutation that led to a better ability to process language, and this in turn led to further development of the language. So mutation also has happened in the course of human evolution. So as and when you are reading chapter 1.4, always try to connect that to what you are reading as part of chapter 1.6. Okay, yes. Even competitive exclusion also, right? Anyone? Gauss rule. Can anyone explain where we can apply Gauss rule? Competitive exclusion to human evolution. Yes. Gauss rule. Yeah. Sairam. Gauss rule. Competitive exclusion. Where it happened?
Probably Neanderthals and what early Homo sapiens lived in the same.
Very good, isn't it? Where there are Neanderthals, okay, Neanderthals might have emerged from Homo heidelbergensis. Some also say Homo antecessor, but let's assume for our ease, Homo heidelbergensis gave rise to Homo neanderthalensis, and modern Homo sapiens who are now spear throwers. They are not just piercing with a spear; they can even throw a spear with more advanced upper Paleolithic blade tools, which are definitely advanced when compared to the Mousterian flake tools, isn't it? And with a better build, with a better bipedal locomotion, with more energy efficient bipedal locomotion, with more evolved brain, with better linguistic competence, they went to the same environmental niche, ecological niche inhabited by Neanderthal. They could easily outcompete, isn't it? There are also evidences of, there is one Neanderthal dead body which got killed by a spear which is thrown from the distance. Like a projectile, the spear is thrown and the spear got pierced in the back of the Neanderthal. Don't get confused with the Otzi man. Otzi man is different. This is a different fossil. And this individual died. Means they got the ability to throw it like a projectile and kill. So definitely the advanced physical traits and the advanced cultural traits is a good example of parallelism or Gauss's rule, which we can see in the case of Homo neanderthal and Homo sapiens. Right? Uh-huh. Sorry?
Because of the industrial revolution, the color of the melanin moves. Because of the evolution.
Yes.
Can we use that?
Transient polymorphism. Yeah. In case of humans also, there is a wonderful example of transient polymorphism. What is that? Amylase gene. Both amylase gene and lactose tolerance are good examples of transient polymorphism. Entire world is now moving towards lactose tolerance, not intolerance. Initially, whole world is intolerant to lactose consumption. Now, gradually, whole world is becoming tolerant. So, selection is moving towards the direction of lactose tolerance. That is a transient polymorphism. Like this, whatever we read in chapter 1.4 and 9.3, you have to connect it to chapter 1.6. So, your understanding of these three chapters will be much better. Okay, yes. I think we will stop chapter 1.4 here. Please write down some facts which you should not forget. Some of them you already know. I have already given in the handout also, but just uh, what is sorry, just 2 minutes and it. Yeah. Julian Huxley. Julian Huxley. Julian Huxley popularized the term modern synthesis. Julian Huxley popularized the term modern synthesis. Okay. Who explained the concept of genetic drift? Sewall Wright. Sewall Wright. Sewall Wright. Osborne, who proposed the concept of what is the concept of Osborne? OSB, adaptive radiation. What is the name of the book written by Dobzhansky? Theodosius Dobzhansky. Genetics and Origin of Species. Very important book. Genetics and Origin of Species. Genetics and Origin of Species. What is Haldane famous for? What is Haldane famous for? Mathematical models. Both Haldane and Fisher, both are population geneticists using statistical models. Okay, so after the session, sit down and try to write down all of them at one place. Okay, try to write down all thinkers and all the important books in chapter 1.4 at one place, so that in exam you can easily recall. In the handout I've already given these names. Okay, important ones. Okay, I think this completes chapter 1.4. We have largely touched upon most of the things. In fact, we can also apply Evo-Devo hypothesis, isn't it? Plasticity, everything. Plasticity in ecological anthropology I explained, right? So every concept can be linked to, understanding human evolution. Okay. Just write down these three names of the genes, because gene culture coevolution I did not do in depth. Dual inheritance theory or gene culture coevolution. Just write down these three names because it's easy. I thought I not discuss in the class. But in exam hall, if you write these names of the genes, examiner will feel little more happy. LCT and MCMX gene. Nothing but these are the genes for dairying, pastoralism, pastoralism. Okay. Because of this, we all acquired these genes. This also falls under transient polymorphism. Then another gene, AMY1 gene. AMY1 gene. Okay. Another FOXP2 gene. Okay. FOXP2 gene. Need not remember many, just remember these three, more than sufficient to explain gene culture co-evolution. With agriculture, this started. With dairying, this genetic change happened. This genetic change led to linguistic competence among humans. Right? So we're done with chapter 1.4. Now let's get into chapter 1.5. Chapter 1.5, primates, one chapter which is most often skipped by students. Okay, they believe there is a lot to memorize. To some extent there is memory, but if you understand it logically, it's actually nothing much to memorize. Everything has a logic behind it. Okay, first I'll start with this. in the handout I gave specific definitions given by Napier and Napier in their textbook, and also another definition given by Clark. So let me not dictate in the class and waste your time. As you see the handout, you will understand that. We will see what makes primate distinctive among other mammals. Okay, you can try. Will you agree with me? Primate is an order within mammals. Within class Mammalia, primate is an order. So what are the distinctive features of the order primate? Distinctive features. Yes, please. Uh-huh.
Can we say estrous cycle?
Estrus cycle, there is no unanimity, because in lesser primates, what lesser primates, other than humans, only human females have receptivity throughout the year. For that matter, most of the apes also have cyclical receptivity and they have estrus cycles only. So that's not the major difference. Symbolism. Okay, symbolism also we cannot attribute symbolism to prosimians, New World monkeys. Only some Old World monkeys have. Again, within major apes also, orangutans does not have much of symbolism. Symbolism is characteristic of very few primates. Of course, humans. So it's not a very distinctive feature.
Stereotypic vision.
Yeah, we can start with first. You can start with vision only. Why not? Forward, forward facing eyes. Forward facing eyes. Then 3D vision, of course, stereoscopic or depth perception, stereoscopic or 3D vision, and of course color vision. So which has become the major or important important sensory organ? Visual sensory organ. Our visual senses became more important when compared to olfactory plus auditory. So as yes, because of this, so do they need a snout? They don't need a snout. Snout means a prognatic jaw. They don't need a prognatic jaw, isn't it? Why they don't need a prognatic jaw? Because snout is no longer important. Snout is no longer important means olfaction is no longer important. So visual senses are important. So even visual cortex in the brain also evolved. As visual cortex in the brain is located in the occipital lobe, isn't it? Occipital lobe, which is located in the posterior or back side of the skull, became more rounded. Everything is related. Back side of the skull became more rounded because of the increase of the visual senses. What else? Any important thing? What about thumbs and great toes? I thought you will comment on that. Another important feature is opposable thumb and also opposable great toe, isn't it? Except for humans, even great apes have an opposable great toe and all has opposable thumb. This opposable thumb gave a distinctive advantage to the primates of what? A prehensile. Prehensile means ability to grasp, and this opposability also added to the prehensility, and it gave power grip, and it also gave a precision grip, power grip, and it also gave a precision grip, both power grip and a precision grip. So another significant primate characteristic is opposable thumb and opposable great toe. Opposable thumb and opposable great toe. Anything else you would like to add? Any distinctive characteristic?
Only two mammary glands.
Yeah, mammary glands have reduced. Mammary glands have reduced, but even more important, clavicle. Moist nose is lost. Dry nose. That's what when we said we spoke even a bigger thing, right? Entire snout itself got reduced. Entire snout itself got reduced. Then obviously in the prosimians they have a wet nose. Because why wet nose? Because prosimians have just evolved from other insectivorous mammals. Insectivorous mammals. They have just evolved from other insectivorous mammals, and those insectivorous mammals are still into what do you call diet on insects, and for them sense of olfaction is still important. So that is the reason prosimians retained some of the traits of their ancestors, and that is the reason prosimians still have wet noses. I'll come to that. Right now we are talking about the distinctive features. Clavicle, you always should write this clavicle or collarbone as a distinctive feature. Clavicle or collarbone stands out. Another important you should always write is larger brain relative to the body size. This point you should never forget. Larger brain relative to body size. Larger brain relative to body size, and larger brain relative to body size in turn lead to what? Prolonged infant dependency. Prolonged infant dependency, isn't it? It's a simple obstetrical dilemma. Brain is large, so the baby cannot be delivered if the brain matures fully inside the womb of the mother. So baby has to be delivered immature. Baby has to be delivered, or baby is delivered not in a fully matured way. Baby's brain development happens outside the mother's womb. Means greater the time baby spent with the mothers, greater will be the learning, greater will be the enculturation, greater will be the survival skills given, isn't it? Greater the prolonged infant dependency, greater the socialization, greater the enculturation. So because of these two, what? One, better bonding. Two, better survival skills. Better survival skills. Better nutrition to the baby. Better nutrition to the baby. That made, primates survive better. That gave primates a survival advantage. That gave primates a survival advantage. Okay, all these are the important things you have to highlight. There are many other things also, but first you should start with these things. Okay, forward facing eyes with a 3D vision, which is stereoscopic vision or a color vision, visual cortex and all everything related to visual apparatus improved. Snout reduced because olfaction is no longer important, isn't it? Then opposable thumb, opposable great toe, which is very important. This led to a precision grip and a power grip. Overall, the prehensility improved. Clavicle or a collarbone gave a great range of movements, which in the later date also has helped in better precision grip, power grip, and a better hand-eye coordination that has contributed to the development of the culture. And a larger brain size relative to the body size contributed to prolonged infant dependency, and because of the prolonged infant dependency, better socialization, better enculturation, bonding, survival skills, nutrition led to survival advantage seen in the primates. Got my point? Yes, you should be aware of all these aspects. Now, quickly we will see the difference between prosimians and simians. They are not asking these questions, but for the sake of continuity, who knows, suddenly if they ask, we should not feel like we have left out on that topic. So, yeah. prosimians, simians. So prosimians are also called as strepsirrhini. Why strepsirrhini? Wet nose. They are called as haplorhini. Haplorhini. So what? Tell me quickly the differences between prosimians and simians. Prosimians are nothing but early primates, right? Early primates. So they have all early features. Just now they evolved from insectivorous mammals, right? So they still retain those features. Let's say they have the post-orbital plate. Is it closed or still open? Yeah, the post-orbital plate is still not closed completely. The post-orbital plate. That's why their eye tend to move. Their eye is not stable. Their eye is not stable. Eyes tend to move. And that's also the reason their eyes appear to be large. Eyes appear to be large. And their stereoscopic vision is not yet fully developed. They have a post-orbital plate and other aspects like they have a wet nose. They have a wet nose because olfaction is still important. Some of them also have mobile ears. Some of them also has prosimians also have mobile ears. Why? Because they still depend on auditory senses. So they also have mobile ears. The ears move, and they also have whiskers on the nose, like dogs and cats. Whiskers, and some of the prosimians still retain some early characteristics like tell me dental comb. Some of them have tooth claw. Some of them have dental comb. They use for grooming. Dental comb is formed by the fusion of two incisors and one canine of the lower jaw, isn't it? That forms a dental comb. Some of the prosimians have this. They use for the purpose of grooming. Some of them have a tooth claw. Means the finger is not yet fully developed, the nail is not yet fully developed, it still looks like a claw. So dental comb, tooth claw. So like this, prosimians have many features that indicate their primitiveness. Other important feature is their nocturnality. Nocturnality means they prefer to stay awake in the nights. Why they prefer to stay awake in the nights? Because they are still consuming. What is their predominant diet? Insects is their predominant diet. So what is the time of the day where insects are more available? Definitely during the nights. So they prefer a nocturnal life. And what is the primary mode of locomotion in prosimians? Prosimians' primary mode of locomotion is vertical clinging. Sometimes vertical climbing. Not just clinging, they also climb and vertical clinging and leaping also. They also leap. Vertical climbing or clinging and leaping is the important mode of locomotion. For this, they need a strong hind limbs. For vertical clinging and vertical, whereas as in the course of evolution, for brachiation, what do we need? A strong shoulder joint. For brachiation, semi-brachiation or modified brachiation, as you see in orangutan, what you need is a strong shoulder joint. But for vertical clinging, climbing and leaping, what you need to have is a strong hind limbs. Strong hind limbs. So these are some of the features. Of course, prosimians still have a snout. And other things like they do not have a fovea centralis because their vision also is not fully developed. That's a bit biology. You not remember. Even if you write these points, examiner will be happy. Their post-orbital plate is still not yet closed. They still have wet noses. They have mobile ears, and associated with this snout thing, you can say that they still did not have a flat face. those points also you can write, but most important points are these things, especially their dietary habitations and their behavioral aspect like nocturnality, and some of their physical characteristics like lack of post-orbital plate, wet nose, whiskers, mobile ears, presence of a dental comb and tooth claw. These are the few things which we all should be aware. Anything else to add to this, prosimians? Yes. What are the important examples? Lemurs, lorises, lemurs, lorises, and tarsiers. Ember and Ember puts tarsiers under prosimians, whereas some textbooks do not put tarsiers under prosimians. But yeah, it depends. Whatever you want to follow. Ember and Ember doesn't put tarsiers under prosimians. Okay, I would suggest you to write them under prosimians only. Okay, just to avoid complication. Let's call tarsiers or prosimians. You write the same point. The taxonomic positioning of tarsiers is debatable due to certain factors because their sense of smell is slightly more developed or less developed when compared to other prosimians. That is the only reason. Okay, they are considered a bit different. Okay, yes. So that explains the difference. Now, now we will talk about another important aspect. Theories of primate adaptations. Okay, theories of primate adaptations. Theories of primate adaptation. Various theories do exist, right, for primate adaptations. So, what is that popular theory? Popular theory is arboreal adaptation hypothesis. What is arboreal adaptation hypothesis? What does it say? What is the proposal of arboreal adaptation hypothesis? Arboreal adaptation hypothesis says primate adaptations. Primate adaptations means the physical adaptations which primates have developed, the physical adaptations which primates have developed are because of their arboreal environment, or because of their arboreal environment, or because of their arboreal niche. Means as they are on the trees, they develop certain adaptations. What are they? 3D vision, stereoscopic vision or 3D vision, color vision. You got my point? A prehensile hands, prehensile feet. So they developed all these features because of the life on the trees. But there is another theory which counters this arboreal adaptation theory. What is that theory which counters arboreal adaptation theory? That is visual predation hypothesis. Ember writes it well. What is this visual predation hypothesis says? Very simple. Visual predation hypothesis says that primates may not have developed these adaptations like prehensile hand and feet, or a 3D scopic vision, or a stereoscopic vision, or a color vision on the trees. They might have possibly developed these adaptations as and when they are on the ground itself. As and when they are on the ground itself. As they are on the forest undergrowth, and there are plenty of insects on the forest undergrowth. To catch hold of the insects, they might have developed prehensile hands and prehensile feet. Simultaneously, to have a better ability to catch insects, they would have developed this 3D vision or stereoscopic vision. And that was the time when Cenozoic era of mammals, there is a proliferation of the mammals. Very varieties of mammals started to develop. So there is a competition among the mammals. So driven by competitive exclusion or because of a competitive exclusion, some of the mammals which already have a prehensile hands and feet and 3D scopic vision, color vision, might have climbed onto the trees. It's not that they developed changes after they got into the trees. Because they have these adaptations, it made easy for them to climb onto the trees because they want to avoid the competition with other mammals. That is the age of mammals. What is the age of mammals? Cenozoic era is the age of mammals, and Cenozoic era is the age of diversification of mammals. Got my point? There is another interesting theory which has to be read along with visual predation hypothesis is angiosperm radiation hypothesis. Angiosperm radiation hypothesis. Another simple theory, what is angiosperm radiation hypothesis? Cenozoic era also is an era where angiosperms and their numbers increased. Angiosperms means very simple, fruiting plants and flowering plants increased. Before that, we have less fruiting and flowering plants. With Cenozoic era, we have plenty of fruiting plants and flowering plants. Now there is lot of ecological niche created. Everywhere there are fruits, everywhere there are flowers. Someone has to make use of them. You understood my point? And also there is a change in the climate. There is a change in the climate. Insects are there, no doubt. Insects are abundant. Along with insects, fruits and flowers are also abundant. So other mammals took care of insects, fruits and flowers. This so-called what do you call primates started to enjoy tasting, and that's how they developed in their own ecological niche. So that is called as angiosperm radiation hypothesis. Angiosperm radiation. It's not significantly different from visual predation hypothesis, but that is also a separate proposal. Then which is the most appropriate theory? We can't take a stand that something is more, it's a combination of all the three. No doubt, to some extent, they might have acquired some characteristics as they are in the forest undergrowth only. But the perfection of this primate-like characteristics happened only after they started to live more extensively on the arboreal environment and started to continue to exploit the fruits and flowers of the arboreal environment. See, because certain things, certain aspects like what that perfect shoulder joint or perfect prehensility, all have this got perfected only after they climbed the trees. Got my point? So that is these three important theories. Just write down the names of the proponents. Yeah, arboreal adaptation hypothesis, G.E. Smith and F.W. Jones. G.E. Smith and F.W. Jones. G.E. Smith and F.W. Jones. Then visual predation hypothesis, Matt Cartmill. Matt Cartmill. Matt Cartmill. Angiosperm radiation hypothesis, Robert W. Sussman. Okay, Robert W. Sussman gave angiosperm radiation hypothesis. Multifactorial view is the most accepted. Means a combination of all the three is multifactorial view. Multifactorial view. Okay. So this is about adaptations in primate. Just curious, the dentition in primates, is it a generalized dentition or a specialized dentition? Dentition, is it a generalized dentition or a specialized dentition? If it's a specialized, it will become extinct. Our dentition is a generalized dentition suitable for generalized diet. Why do you think Paranthropus robustus become extinct? Because of its specialized diet. Survival in the evolution is better when the dietary patterns are generalized. Got my point? So generalized diet means you can eat any type of food. So generalized dentition means you can eat any type of diet. If the dentition is specialized, you can only eat certain type of diet. You can't eat certain type of diet that will inhibit your survival chances. So dentition is generalized. We'll just spend 2 to 3 minutes on primate taxonomy. Okay, primate taxonomy. They are not asking these questions, but for the sake of completeness or continuity, let's have that. I'll do something. I'll share the slide. You guys try to quickly write it. So in 2-3 minutes, it will be like a practice for you. Okay. Yeah. And I'll explain the logic as you are writing. Okay. Yes. Observe the logic. Prosimians, you already know, right? Prosimians, simians. Also called as what, Raini? Strepsils means what? Wet. Wet noses. Wet Raini. Lemurs, lorises, tarsiers. Then you have Anthropoideae. Anthropoideae is nothing but whole of simians. Whole of simians. They have dry noses. Dry noses. Within them you have Platyrrhini, Catarrhini. Platy means what? Sideward nostrils. Sideward nostrils. Catarrhini, front side nostrils pointing downwards. Platyrrhini, Catarrhini. New World monkeys, Old World monkeys. Within New World monkeys, you have marmosets, tamarins, howlers, spider monkeys, capuchins. All these fall under the New World monkeys. Within Old World monkey, you have again Sarcopithecoideae and Hominoideae. Very popular baboons also come under Sarcopithecoideae. Macaques, langurs, you have all over, Hanuman langurs, we find everywhere. Macaques, all this we see everywhere, right? Then Hominoideae. Hominoideae is nothing but apes and humans. Apes and humans. What distinguishes this from this? No tail. Hominoidea has no tail. Apes and humans. Within Hominoidea, you have lesser apes, greater apes, and humans. Lesser apes are like gibbons, simongs. They are true brachiators. True brachiators. Isn't it? Simongs and gibbons. Greater apes, gorillas, chimpanzees, orangutans. Humans also fall under this Hominoidea. Okay, Hominoidea. And hominization is nothing but homininization, they call it. Homininization means homo species. Homo species formation is called homininization. Got it? Which ape we have in India? We have only gibbons in India. Gorillas and chimpanzees we have only in, currently we have them only in Africa in the natural natural ecosystem. Orangutans we have in Southeast Asia, right? Gibbons, we have hula gibbons in India, and simongs we don't have in India. That is about the apes. Okay, you should have this basic understanding of the primate taxonomy. Got my point? Yes. Are there any prosimians in India? Slender loris we have in India. Slender loris we have in India. Tarsiers, no. They are again in Southeast Asia. Lemurs, we find them in Madagascar. Okay. Geographical distribution is not important for exam, but just be aware of this classification of primates. Classification of primates. Okay. This is primate taxonomy. Where are bonobos here? Where should we situate bonobos? Bonobos. Huh? Bonobos are a variant of chimpanzee, right? Bonobos diverge from chimpanzee line. Okay, I think there is one more image you all should have some knowledge. You need not draw it, but you should have some knowledge. Because it will help you in chapter 1.6 also. Just give me 1 second time. This is not this. Okay, I'll ask this question, try to answer. When did the divergence between when did the divergence between chimpanzee line and human line happen? What is the time of divergence? 6 millions? Yeah, 6 million years ago, divergence happened, right? Then, who is genetically closest to humans? Which ape is genetically closest to humans? Chimpanzees. Very good. What about gorilla? Second closest is gorilla. Searching for one good image. Recently, I have downloaded it. Just give me 1 second. Yeah, yeah. All should be aware of this. Okay. 18 million years ago, 18 million years ago, we all have a common ancestor. And at 18 million years ago, gibbons and simongs diversified. And 14 million years ago, what happened? One branch became orangutans. One branch became and orangutans. This is where you will study this Dryopithecus, Ramapithecus, Sivapithecus. Later, we will have that also in today's class. 7 million years ago, gorillas diverged from our line. 7 million years ago, this have gone separate. Then 6 million years ago, chimpanzees, humans. Around 4 million years ago, bonobos branched out from chimpanzees. Okay, practice this diagram. It might help somewhere in exam also. I'll share this PDF with you. So this is what is the phylogeny of human and what do you call apes. Okay, yes, hominoid species especially. Yeah. Next, after this, we will talk about something important, that is primate behavior. Again, UPSC's favorite topic after primate taxonomy. We will talk about primate behavior. Here, they are repeatedly asking questions on this primate behavior. It's not without a reason. Especially because of, what do you call this studies? Ethological studies. Ethological studies means, what are ethological studies? Study of animal behavior. Study of animal behavior. Why are we interested in primate behavior? Very good. We are interested in primate behavior because we share, according to Franz D. Wall, we share, according to Zered Diamond, we share 98.5 percentage genes. We share 98.5 percentage genes. Means genetically we are very close. So you all agree with me when I say genes will determine traits or characteristics. The traits or characteristics can be physical, isn't it? Behavioral, physical and behavioral characteristics. Simply put, genes determines behaviors. So there are many behaviors. There are many behaviors of humans. There are many behaviors of humans for which we can give genetic attributions. General assumptions of psychologists is, psychologists used to assume that it is the culture that patterns behaviors. Cultures that patterns behaviors. No doubt, cultures patterns behaviors, but genes also determine our behaviors. To what extent genes determine our behaviors is an area of study. Is an area of study. Okay, so that is the reason in our syllabus they have given primate behavioral studies. Okay, one such very popular study is attributed to Franz D. Vaughan, isn't it? He did extensive studies, especially to understand conflict and peacemaking or reconciliation among primates. Reconciliation among primates. He also did studies on existence of empathy among primates, and what do you call inequity aversion studies among primates. Also, he did studies inequity aversion, isn't it? He said among chimpanzees, it's not that they always go into conflict. Chimpanzees also know how to resolve the conflicts. Chimpanzees also know not just how to resolve the conflicts, they are, which means not only reconciling the conflict, and they know how to come to an agreement. Look at the level of intellectual complexity. Some of the chimpanzees can also care for the peers, means they have an element of empathy. There is also an inequity aversion they have observed. They did this studies among capuchin monkeys. Just now you have seen, right? There are New World monkeys. There is an aversion for inequity. Means when certain monkeys they try to do injustice by not giving shares in a proper way, they have this tendency to protest. So the point I am trying to say, human morality also has a basis in nature. We used to think that culture always emanates from, or morality always emanates from culture. We thought morality comes from religion, morality comes from social institutions like marriage, family, but nature also has certain morals, isn't it? Franz D. Wahl also is very popular for his study of sexual behaviors, sexual patterns, isn't it? Especially his bonobo studies are very much indicative, right? In bonobos, sex is casual and bonobos are matriarchal, indulge in casual sex, and sex is used as a means of aversion of conflict. Aversion of conflict. Unlike chimpanzees, unlike chimpanzees, which are known for a patriarchal way of life with one male, many female, unlike chimpanzees which exhibit dominance hierarchies, male centered dominance hierarchies, unlike chimpanzees which strictly follow territoriality and enter into conflicts based on territoriality. Bonobos resolves conflict by offering their females, and bonobos are led by females. Female led natal troops are a common aspect. So all these mythological behavioral studies give us a lot of information in understanding our human behaviors also. Okay, that is the reason UPSC is repeatedly asking these questions. Okay, and another popular study you all have to study and remember in little more depth is the studies of Hans Kummer, and especially his studies on Hamadryas baboons. When Hans Kummer studied this Hamadryas baboons, what he has observed is a multi-level society. He has observed a multi-level society. Multi-level society means like a society with individual units like a family, then followed by a group, then in the hierarchy followed by, like this, up to a troop level. They have multiple levels. We call it multi-level society. A clan a clan, a band, a troop. See, just like we humans have social groups, which are layered social groups, they have multi-level societies. They have multi-level societies. Isn't it? We thought stratification or ranked arrangement are characteristic to the humans. But these studies by Hans Kummer in 1970s itself on Hamagras baboons have proven the existence of multi-level societies even in the nature. They said individual family is one unit. They organize into clans. They in turn organize into bands, which in turn organize into troops. Okay, there is a reason why I am spending more time on it. The questions on this topic are repeatedly coming because of its contemporary relevance. That's why last year also they asked a question on the last year, not a couple of years before, they asked a question on Jane Goodall, right? Jane Goodall. Who is Jane Goodall? Again, she is a primatologist. She dedicated her whole life, 65 years of her life is in field. Gombe National Park in Africa, everywhere. She studied communication systems of chimpanzees, communication systems of gorilla, and she is the one who gave this startling find that it's not just tool usage, chimpanzees are also tool makers. We all used to think one significant difference between Homo line and other species is ability to make tools. But she has proven that chimpanzee is also capable of making tools. Isn't it? That's a startling revelation. She also came out in open and said that it's not just about tool making capabilities. If you train them, they are also capable of symbolic language. And she did experimentation to teach them American Sign Languages. So previously we thought symbolic thought is exclusive domain of humans. But she made a proposal that even they can be trained in symbolic thought with repetitive, means social learning is possible to them. Social learning, Ember calls it as social learning. So if we impart social learning to them, they can learn as good as humans is the idea given by her. And she also made a proposal that they have distinctive language, though this is vehemently criticized, but she went on to say that they have a distinctive sign language, or they also have a language through which they want to communicate. These studies were further strengthened by Cheney and Seforth, especially the primate communication study. Cheney and Seforth, they did studies on one. This is vervet monkey studies are important. Vervet monkey studies. And another important study they did is on baboons. Try to understand why this study are important. Among vervet monkeys, what they observed is they can differentiate the distress calls. They can differentiate the distress calls. Let's say when leopard comes for hunt, the distress call is something else. When a snake comes for hunt, distress call is something else. You understand my point? So for different animals, they have different distress calls, and when artificially these distress calls are made, the animals have actually understood that, and animals are responding to the differential distress calls, which means that is somewhat closer to the symbolic thought. They can remember this and they are able to reproduce it. It's not an impulsive reaction. It's not an impulsive reaction. They can remember and they can recall and they can respond. You understood my point? That studies were performed on vervet monkeys. They also identified among the baboons existence of social cognition. Social cognition means these baboons, they know among them there are clans, among them there are hierarchies or ranks. and even their communication is shaped by these social facts. Their communication is also shaped by these social facts. Are you understanding what I am trying to say? Which means they have, the language is not just a means of communication among them. Language, to be not precise, it's not language. Their communication is not just for the purpose of communicating something. Communication also depends upon the hierarchies or ranks. Communication also depends upon the clans. That is what you study in your linguistic anthropology, right? Social context of language use. You got my point? So these are some of the linguistic studies. And even Boyd and Silk also did extensive writing on it. They did not go to the field and study, but in their textbook, Boyd and Silk also have compiled most of the primate studies. Okay, Zarat Diamond, you all must have heard his name. He's a very popular guy. This Guns, Roses and Steels, a popular book, very popular book. He also has written another popular book called as Third Chimpanzee. In this book, you all should read about Zarat Diamond, because in essay writing also his, some of his observations will stand out. After the class, read little bit about Zarat Diamond. He is not actually a primatologist, but he made many observations with regard to man-primate relationship. Okay, in his book Third Chimpanzee. Third Chimpanzee. Okay. Of course, as students of anthropology, you all should watch this movie Planet of the Apes. I heard there are multiple series. If not multiple series, at least watch some of them, because the important premise of this movie is speciesism, right? Just like racism, we all are blinded by this fact called as speciesism. Speciesism is a belief that our species is the most superior. Our species is the most superior, and we behave as if we have this, what do you call, natural right to exploit other species. The movie is about role reversal, wherein apes starts to dominate us. That's the scenario. So watch such kind of movies. It can give us more information. It can help us in better writing our answers. Got my point? So that is about these primate behavioral studies. Other things I am not touching, because you in your regular books you read about the importance of territoriality, importance of dominance hierarchy, importance of grooming, of course language. I have touched upon this, different types of social groups. One social group study I have already mentioned. Among gorillas, you must be aware of the existence of harems, isn't it? Gorillas have these harems, right? Harems. Some of them also have this monogamous pairs. Which one have? Huh? Orangutans and some of the new world monkeys also have this monogamous pairs. Some of them also have the solitary way of living. They live alone throughout their life, and like this, different type of social groups or social organizations. Sexual behaviors also are very very important, like I mentioned with the bonobos. And also the receptivity of the females, whether they are receptive for the sex throughout the year or only during the estrous cycles, also an important sexual behavior. All these things you should be aware. Okay, read in little more depth and detail. Here also I try to give some information for easy revision purpose. Okay, yes, yeah. It's not a, I think, pair living or monogamy is feature of, you mentioned orangutan. It's actually gibbons. Orangutans also could be there, but gibbons is popular. Okay, then quickly tell me the difference between old world monkeys and new world monkeys, because they're not asking that topic. Let's not discuss in the class, but for the sake of revision purpose, let's not leave that topic also. Yes, please. Very good. Prehensile tail for old world monkeys. Then, new world monkeys have prehensile tail. Yes. Then what else? Difference between new world monkeys and old world monkeys. Which has more intelligence? Come on, let's not take much time in this topic. Old world monkeys, new world monkeys. Yes, somebody started with that point. It's correct. New world monkeys has a prehensile tail. What is the type of locomotion here? New World monkeys? What quadrupedalism? Arboreal, because they are completely arboreal, right? Arboreal quadrupedalism. Do old world monkeys have prehensile tail? No, no prehensile tail. In their case, what is locomotion? Both arboreal plus terrestrial quadrupedalism. Then what else? Which is more intelligent? Yes, old world monkeys are more intelligent. So, as they are more intelligent, they display more complex behaviors. Less intelligent. Then what else? Which has ischial callosities or butt pads to attract females. Old world monkeys, right? Old world monkeys have ischial callosities. Ischial callosities are butt pads. That's the reason they have their more sexual dimorphism. They exhibit sexual dimorphism. No butt pads or ischial callosities. Which one have cheek pouches? Cheek pouches. Huh? Old world monkeys have cheek pouches. Cheek pouches. No cheek pouches. Okay. Some of the new world monkeys are also insectivorous. Some of them are also insectivorous. Whereas all the old world monkeys are predominantly frugivorous. Frugivorous. These are some of the important differences between old world monkeys and new world monkeys. Okay. Any other things to add here? Anything to add? Yeah, broadly this is sufficient.
New world monkeys also use hind limbs for movement, but old world only used for hanging.
Sorry?
Hind limbs are used by old world only for hanging.
Yes.
New world we use hind limbs also for
Yeah, because both hand and feet are evolved for grasping in new world monkeys because of the arboreal adaptation as an arboreal, because they are completely arboreal. Whereas old world monkeys are a combination of arboreal and terrestrial, so their hind limbs are less suitable for grasping than new world monkeys. Yes. Right. Now let's get to the next important topic. Skeletal changes due to erect posture. Skeletal changes due to erect posture. UPSC's favorite topic, right? They never get bored of asking this topic. Skeletal changes due to erect posture. Skeletal changes due to erect posture. Tell me whatever is quickly coming to your mind. Very good. What happens to foramen magnum, which is a hole in the base of the skull? Very good. Foramen magnum moves. Foramen magnum moves downward and forward and centralward, isn't it? Why? To properly stabilize the head. Foramen magnum moves downward, forward and centralward. So forward movement of foramen magnum is the most important skeletal change that is acquired during the erect posture. Then what else? Sorry? Orthognathism. Okay. Decrease in prognathism. Decrease in prognathism. Simply put, move towards a more flatter face. Flatter face. Okay, because of the erect posture called as bipedalism. Okay, So we started to develop a more elegant and a flatter face. Flatter face, which is nothing but a decrease in prognapism. Very good. Then, very good. How is the shape of the vertebral column now? Vertebral column has become S-shaped. Why an S-shaped vertebral column? For better shock absorption. For better shock absorption, vertebral column has transformed from a C-shaped to an S-shaped vertebral column with reduction of the coccyx. Coccyx has become a vestigial structure. Tailbone has become almost a vestigial structure, isn't it? Whereas cervical, thoracic, lumbar, sacral vertebrae are there, but they change their shape into an S-shaped S-shaped vertebral column. Okay, for better shock absorption, and it acts like a spring. It acts like a spring and enables better distribution of the power and enhance the energy efficiency in locomotion. It enhances the energy efficiency in locomotion by distributing the energy well. Then what other changes happened? Very good, very good. So what happened to the pelvis? Pelvis previously is long and narrow. Hitherto the pelvis is long, narrow. Take a chimpanzee. How a chimpanzee's pelvis is long and narrow. I'll show the image for you after this. Whereas in case of humans, the pelvis has become short and broad pelvis. The short and broad pelvis will support or will hold the body internal organs, and thus distributes the center of gravity more evenly. Distributes center of gravity more evenly, leading to efficient bipedal walking. That's one change. Then what about this? Okay, linea aspera. There are other important things. We'll go to femur list. Inward angulation of the femur, isn't it? What happened to the femur? Femur has become more inward angulation of the femur. Inward angulation of femur, very important. You should not forget writing this point. This inward angulation of femur also is responsible for better center of gravity, and no longer the femur looks like dropping down from the hips, but they are systematically aligned. Okay, in case of chimpanzees and all, there is no inward angulation, whereas in case of humans, there is this. I'll show these images, don't worry, in a while. There is this inward angulation of femur. Anything else we can talk about skeletal changes? Very good. There is a development of foot arches. Previously, there are no foot arches in chimpanzees and all. There is a flat foot. Foot is flat. They have not acquired perfect bipedalism. Even in Australopithecus, we do not have flat arches of the foot. Homo habilis also does not have, isn't it? Laterally footprints of Australopithecus. Do they show perfect arch? No. Only from Homo erectus, humans have acquired perfect bipedalism, and we see the observance of foot arches. Okay, foot arches also what do you call it? It's like a concave, inward concave. It looks like an inward concave. These are some of the important skeletal changes that happened, isn't it? Foramen magnum, S-shaped spines, pelvis, femur angle. Lower limbs have become, isn't it, longer lower limbs. Okay. Longer lower limbs is one thing you can add. Okay. Lower limb proportion. Lower limb proportion versus upper limb proportion. Now there is a change. In Australopithecus, still upper limb is longer when compared to the lower limb. But by modern Homo sapiens, the proportion of upper limb to lower limb altered, and lower limb has become longer vis-a-vis upper limb. Okay, so these are the few important changes that occurred because of the erect posture. Let's take just 5 minutes time, and I'll try to show you some images. Huh. That's a chimpanzee. Look, how is the hip bone? Long and narrow. Here it is short and broad, isn't it? How about the foramen magnum? Look where it is located. In the base of the skull, that is much backward. Here it is centrally located, isn't it? You can see that foramen magnum. Look at the shape of the vertebral column. It's more of C shape. Here it's proper S shaped. S shaped. This is how our S-shaped spine. It acts like a spring with a forward curvature. Curvature is forward facing. Okay, and for them they have one long curve like this, a C-shaped curve. This is our hip bone. Remember this ilium. This is pubic bone. Pubic bone. This is a coccyx tailbone which got reduced. This is the sacrum, right? Sacrum. In case of females, human female sacrum is broader, short. In case of men, it is longer, narrow, and front protruding. That's why females have a good, space. It's a pelvic canal for the purpose of delivery of the baby, right? Then, yeah, that is the difference. Long, narrow, short, broad. Inward angulation of femur. And foot arch. Can you see this foot arch? Yes. It's a longitudinal, and both in a longitudinal direction and in the transverse direction there is a proper foot arch. Foot arch. We have a foot arch, look, whereas apes does not have a foot arch. They have flat. It's flat in them. Okay, so like this. We have evolved over time. Now let's write something important. This you all know this topic, but the problem is students don't read this with sufficient depth through thinkers. That's why we will do that work now. Write down fastly. Bipedal evolution theories. I've taken it from Ember and Ember. Ember and Ember gave it really well. You all know the factors that contributed to bipedal locomotion. Now what we will do is we will read that through theories. Okay. First theory called as visual surveillance theory. Visual surveillance theory. So, who gave this visual surveillance theory? It's a general theory. In visual surveillance theory, what is believed? The reason bipedal locomotion became an important adaptive feature is because of the increased height in bipedal locomotion. It gives a broader range. You can look farther, right? So it will help in easy escape from the predators. Easy escape from the predators. We call it visual surveillance theory. Then another theory proposed is it helps in carrying food easily. This is proposed by Mr. Gordon Hewes. Gordon Hewes proposes this theory. Carrying food easily. Okay? Bipedalism helps us in carrying the food. You can carry the food means you can store the food. You can carry the food, you can store the food means you are a better scavenger when compared to other animals. You are a better gatherer when compared to other animals. And sorry? That's what, when you have a store, when you know how to store by carrying the food, it gives you survival advantage. So that is another adaptive aspect of bipedal locomotion. Then Owen Lovejoy proposes this provisioning concept. Provisioning concept. Provisioning is given by Owen Lovejoy. So what he says, this is very interesting. Because human males have, because of bipedalism, human males can carry food to the females, and female can take care of the baby, and female can take care of the learning of the baby, thus improving the survival rate of the baby. Adaptive advantage. So this provisioning of the food, so those individuals who might have developed the mutation for bipedalism would have enjoyed advantage because the females would have got benefited because of them. Females would have preferred these males, and their children would have survived, and those genes would have carried to the further generations. Got my point? So that is Owen Lovejoy's provisioning theory. Then efficient feeding. Efficient feeding. Efficient feeding is held by Clifford and Clifford Jolly. Clifford Jolly. Efficient feeding means because of two hands, it has become possible to collect more seeds, it has become possible to collect more fruits. Okay, seeds and fruits could have been collected much easily. Okay, nuts, fruits, seeds could have collected easily. This is somewhat similar to the previous theories, but yes, they can collect better, not just carry better, they can collect better, collect more, collect better, store more, surplus, leading to cultural development. This is given by Clifford Jolly. Clifford Jolly. Clifford Jolly. This is another theory. Ember writes it well. If you have time, and read quickly once from Ember also. Then this is also important. Tool use for processing of the food further improved our survival chance, isn't it? Now you have two hands. Bipedalism, two hands, use tools for processing of the food, definitely would have given a survival advantage, isn't it? This is proposed by Sherwood Washburn and David Pilbeam. Pilbeam, you know, right? A popular paleoanthropologist known for Pilbeam hoax. Yes. Tool use, processing. When two hands are available, you can process the food better, right? Like you can butcher, you can cut it, you can better store it. So aggressive tool use, of course, tool use also has other advantage like developing weapons. Tool use for food processing. So overall tool use has become much more better because of bipedalism, right? So that is another reason bipedalism got perfected. Then of course, weapon throwing also gave a survival advantage. Because of bipedalism only we have mastered this weapon throwing. This is proposed both by Milford Wolpoff, proposed by both Wilford Mulpoff and also Savage Rumbag. Both of them proposed this. Okay. This is also a popular theory. So bipedalism, because of these tools and throwing, improved predator defense. Then another very popular, energy efficient locomotion. Energy efficient locomotion. Many of them studied the biomechanics of human bipedal walking. Many researchers studied the biomechanics of human bipedal walking and established beyond doubt that bipedalism is one of the most energy efficient way of locomotion. There are many researchers here. Last but not least is thermoregulation of Peter Wheeler. Thermoregulation of Peter Wheeler. So thermoregulation of Peter Wheeler means, because of ability to stand or because of ability to stand erect, So this has several advantages. What? Direct sunlight, direct less exposed. It enables better evaporative cooling, better radiation. All these advantages are there. So these are various theories that explains bipedal evolution. Okay, it's important. Quickly revise once again. Try to remember these names. Okay, visual surveillance theory, protection from predators, carry food, more surplus, better survival chance, as mentioned by Gordon Hewise. Then you have this better ability to provide to the family, so their children better survival, ability to find more mates. When Lovejoy say this, efficient feeding, they can collect more seeds and more nuts and more fruits. Again, there will be surplus as proposed by Clifford Jolly. Tool use and using of the tools for processing of the food, that is proposed by Sherwood, Washburn and David Pilbeam. Because of the two hands getting empty, they have become weapon throwers. This again gave survival advantage as proposed by Milford Wolpoff and Savage Rumbaugh. And yes, there are many biomechanical researchers suggesting that this is a better energy efficient locomotion. Then you have thermoregulation as proposed by Peter Wheeler. Got my point? Yes. So these are some of the theories of bipedal locomotion. Then let's get into this topic, which students, 90% of the students don't read this topic. They consider it is difficult, and 90% of the classroom this topic is not taught, but I believe this topic is important. Tertiary and quaternary fossil primates. Tertiary and quaternary fossil primates. See, in the syllabus they have given living major primates, isn't it? Then why did they give fossil primates also? Because they also wanted us to understand the picture, complete picture. Just like we have paleontological studies, human paleontological studies are trying to identify our fossils. Primate paleontological studies tries to identify the fossils of the primates. We also should know who are probably what their ancestors are. We all know that in Cenozoic era you have this Paleocene, Eocene, Oligocene, Miocene, then comes Pliocene, later comes Pleistocene. Okay, Homo species starts appearing from Pleo-Pleistocene. That's why your chapter 1.6 title is Pleo-Pleistocene fossils, isn't it? But until then, it is dominated by primates only, and early Pliocene also have some transition fossils. The problem is in our syllabus, the transition fossils or transition forms are not given. That's the source of confusion. Let's see. Paleocene, what happened? Eocene, what happened? Oligocene, what happened? Miocene, what happened? We will see. And Pleo-Pleistocene is the, Pliocene especially is the transition phase. When is the first appearance of apes? Proto-apes appeared in? First apes appeared in Miocene itself. Proconsul is an example of. Miocene is a long period. So during Miocene only first ever apes have appeared. Okay. Yes. And this is also the time in the Miocene only you have this Dryopithecus, Sivapithecus and Keniapithecus. Okay, this Dryopithecus, these are all apes, extinct apes. Dryopithecus, Sivapithecus, Keniapithecus, All these are nothing but Miocene apes. Currently, what is the consensus? Ramapithecus or Sivapithecus has evolved into orangutan, right? Initially, we thought Ramapithecus or Sivapithecus, we want to put it in the Homo line. Later, we have taken it away from the Homo line, right? Dryopithecus is probably the ancestor of modern living primates like gorillas and chimpanzees. Got my point? Yeah. Pithecus again, it also has contributed to some of the apes of Africa. The biggest issue here is we do not have adequate evidences of, especially late Miocene apes. We do not have adequate evidences of late Miocene apes in Africa, and most of the evidences of middle and late Miocene apes are from Europe and Asia. But the first confidently established species in the human line is, without any doubt, we can place Australopithecus in the human line. Australopithecus can be placed in the human line. But who is this? What are these transitional species? This transitional species we still could not establish, especially in Africa. We know that Australopithecus, where we have Australopithecus in Africa, where you have this majority of this, especially the Sivapithecus, Ramapithecus, and most of the finds they revolve around Asia and Europe. Very less number of evidences we have from Africa. So thus it creates a missing link phenomenon. A missing link phenomenon is created because there is a significant gap between late Miocene apes and the first ever appearance of Australopithecus in the early Pliocene period. There is a significant gap. And this gap is something creating a missing link. And what transitional species have actually led to the development of Australopithecus is something paleontologists are yet to establish conclusively. But the more recent studies have established certain species like Ororin, Tuginensis. These are not in our syllabus, but for the sake of academic interest, Sahelanthropus, Chadensis, and other species like Ardipithecus, Ramidus, Ardipithecus, Kadabba. These are considered as the transitional forms. But still, we have not conclusively established or have put any of them in the human line. First conclusively established species which we can confidently put in the human line is only Australopithecus. Late Miocene ape evidences in Africa are relatively less. Still, there is a lot of work to be done to conclusively establish which exactly is the transitional ancestor between us and late Miocene apes is something yet to be understood. Got my point? You should have this clarity. See it again. But as I said, current study says this could probably be placed between the so-called late Miocene apes and Australopithecus, which is the early human ancestor. Then if you read textbooks, you will find, you see the first ever prosimians in this period. Here you will see the first ever New World monkeys. Here you will see the first ever Old World monkeys. Here you will see the first ever apes, like that. That is the reason why these topics are important, because these topics are important to show us that the first fossils of prosimians in this phase, first fossils of New World monkeys in this phase, first fossils of Old World monkeys in this phase, those names are there. That is the purpose they have given this chapter, tertiary and quaternary fossil primates. Tertiary period and quaternary period falls very much within the Cenozoic era. Within that, we have this epochs like Paleocene, Eocene, Oligocene, Miocene and Pliocene. Pleistocene enters into chapter 1.6. 1.5 is largely up to these phases, and in these phases we have evidences of different fossils of the early ancestors, means proto-prosimians, extinct prosimians, first ever old world, first ever new world, first ever, like that you will find. Okay, yes. So that is about this tertiary and quaternary fossil primates. Okay, just take 1-2 minutes time, recall what I have mentioned, ask if you have any doubts. Today I am going deliberately little slow because this is the very first session. I don't want to thought and all we can run fast because
So in the three-branch evolutionary model, Ardipithecus Kadapa is comparatively placed much before Australopithecus.
placed before only, right?
Interlinking. You mentioned about interlinking the Australo and late Miocene. But in the three-branch model, it is placed before Australo.
Definitely, that is before only, right? Before and first Ardipithecus Kadapa వచ్చింది. Later, yeah, correct. That's what I said. I also said the same thing, right? Even these are all transitional forms kada. Means before Australopithecus only, right? Before Australopithecus.
Sir, old world in Eocene or Oligocene?
Old world in Oligocene. Let me check, cross check once. Yeah, Oligocene only. See, Oligocene period. Let's take 2 minutes. Do it from first. Paleocene, Eocene, Oligocene, Miocene, Eocene, Pliocene. Okay. Sorry, from this way. Paleocene, Eocene, Oligocene, Miocene. Paleocene, first prosimians, first monkeys, Eocene, first apes in Oligocene, like that. Paleocene, 65 to 56 million years ago. Some ancestors of primates would have developed. Early Eocene, okay, we have evidences of tarsier-like, lemur-like features. Early Eocene. Then Oligocene, you have first ever monkeys, apes, humans, early monkeys, apes, humans, we call them first ever hominoids. We see first ever anthropoids we see in Oligocene period, 34 million to 24 millions. Then these are the names of the fossils. Okay, names of the fossils. Then early Miocene, you have evidences of, as I said, proto apes like proconsul. Middle Miocene, definite ape-like features, 16 million to 10 million. We have all this Keniapithecus, all these things in Middle Miocene. Late Miocene, we have plenty of fossils in Europe and Asia, but less in Africa. But monkeys are more numerous than apes until this point. Late Miocene, we have examples of Sivapithecus, Dryopithecus like this. But all of them, Sivapithecus is in Asia and Europe, Dryopithecus predominantly found in Europe. Later, like the problem is there are no concrete evidences of late Miocene apes from Africa, which made it difficult to understand as to which ape form has evolved into first human-like forms. But the more recent study says transitional forms like Ororhynchiginensis, Sahelanthropus chalensis, Ardipithecus ramidus could possibly be placed in the human line. Okay, yes. If you observe carefully this diagram, here we know how to connect this. There are no missing links, but here definitely we are not joining Ardipithecus with Australopithecus. This is a missing link. These are all missing links. We have situated them 6 million years ago, whatever, 5 million years. So we have situated them. Situating is different, connecting is different. Here we can confidently connect them. Still there are missing links. Okay, yes. Then, yeah, before we end this topic, another possible question is from primate locomotion. Prepare well for that also. Okay. Primate locomotion. Both Napier and Napier, I've given that in this PDF for you. Napier and Napier, Sherwood, Washburn, all of them did studies on this primate locomotion. Tell me, very easy. Vertical clinging and leaping found among prosimians. So, like, what are the important anatomical features? Long hind limbs. Hind limbs should be long and strong, and also grasping hands and feet. Okay. Tarsal region should be elongated for powerful lap. Tarsal region means the feet. Tarsal region, it should be elongated. That gives them this powerful leap. So vertical clinging and leaping you find among prosimians. Then you have quadrupedalism. Quadrupedalism, both arboreal quadrupedalism and terrestrial quadrupedalism. For this, what you need, forelimb and hind limbs, both of them will be more or less of the same proportion. Again, digits, grasping digits. Shoulders and hips should be flexible. Flexible shoulder joints, flexible hip joints are important. Then comes brachiation. In brachiation, what is proportion of upper arms to lower arms? Upper arms, they should be very long arms. Shoulder again is mobile. Fingers are now more curved fingers. Lumbar region is relatively shorter. Okay, and body should be lighter. We have brachiation among gibbons and siamongs. Means lesser apes have true brachiation, whereas orangutans and to some extent gorillas and chimpanzees are for modified brachiation. Okay, not gorilla, sorry. In some books they write that gorilla is capable of brachiation, but because of its weight it cannot brachiate. You understand my point? Gorilla's body proportion matches that of gibbons and siamongs. Gorillas are capable of brachiation. Chimpanzees do brachiate a bit, but the reason they don't brachiate is their heavy body weight. That is the logic. Anyways, coming to this modified brachiation or suspensory climbing, yes, this is again similar to the brachiation only. Then you have bipedalism among humans, foramen magnum, S-shaped spine, short and broad pelvis, and what do you call arched foot, all these things. And great toe in alignment with other digits, isn't it? Great toe should be in alignment with other digits, and great toe should be opposable or not opposable, because for bipedal locomotion, lower limb stability is more important. Lower limb is not important for grasping. Lower limb stability is important. How do we ensure lower limb stability? By ensuring that great toe is in alignment with other toes. Got my point? So, yes, energies are a bit low. Please be active. We have 35-40 minutes more of the session. Okay, tell me quickly. Vertical clinging and leaping is seen among prosimians, right? So for prosimians, what is the important anatomical feature? Hind limbs stronger when compared to fore limbs. Then body proportion also, lower body proportion is more when compared to the upper body proportion. Then what about brachiation? Brachiation is seen among of course, brachiation is seen among gibbons and siamongs, true brachiation, whereas modified brachiation is seen among orangutans. Those chimpanzees are also capable of brachiating, they don't brachiate because of their body size. What is the type of locomotion in them? What type of quadrupedalism we see in gorillas and chimpanzees? Knuckle walking. Knuckle walking means they walk on the knuckles. And their quadrupedalism, is it on the knees or is it on the feet? Feet. It's not on the knees, on the feet. Humans also are capable of quadrupedalism, but human quadrupedalism which kids do while crawling is not on the feet. Kids crawl on their knees. Kids crawl on their knees. But quadrupedalism of them is based on the feet and knuckles. Got my point? So these simple differences should be aware about. Primate locomotion, it's a potential 10 marker or 15 marker. This year I am expecting a question on primate locomotion. So prepare thoroughly the topic of primate locomotion with specific examples, specific biomechanical features and specific adaptations. Okay, specific link adaptations. Biomechanical features are biomechanics associated, limb adaptations and body proportions. Limb adaptations, body proportions. Should have this complete clarity along with the names of thinkers. Thinkers. If possible, also practice diagrams. Practice diagrams. Okay. So that completes the chapter on primates. Okay. Take 5 minutes break. Just take 2-3 minutes and quickly recall, revise what we did before we go to the next chapter. Online students, hope you are following. Please ask me if you have any doubts without any hesitation.
In locomotion, we also have the slow moving sloths.
Sorry? Yeah.
Slow moving also, slow brachiation.
Mm.
Is also not
Yeah, slow brachiation also is seen especially among
sloths.
sloths, lorises. There are variants also, like within quadrupedalism also there are some quadrupedalism with semi-brachiation. That much depth is not needed. Yes. Topics list. Topics to prepare. Even topics to prepare. Primate locomotion is not in the syllabus. You have to prepare for it. Okay, the logic of the class is revolving only around topics, not specifically around syllabus points. Let's say now in 1.6, I'll be discussing advanced molecular techniques, molecular anthropological techniques. I'll be discussing geographical distribution. So the class logic follows topics only. I'm not exactly doing the syllabus also, but along with that, I'm also doing topics. If you observe, here we started with the primates, distinctive features of primates when compared to mammals. That is one distinctive topic. Then theories usually students skip. For primate adaptation, students read only primate adaptations. But reading through theories is like a separate topic which you should not ignore. Then we discuss primate behavior. But primate behavior, you also should read separately primate social organization, primate communication. That's the reason I separated primate social organization, primate communication. Both are different. Read different means both are part of primate behavior, but read in depth about both. Both of them can be asked as separate questions. Primate behavior can be a 20 marker, or primate communication can be a 10 marker. Primate social organization can be a 10 marker, like that. Then skeletal changes due to erect posture is what you write, but there can be a separate 15 marker on theories of bipedal locomotion or bipedal evolution, which you have to read. Tertiary and quaternary fossil primates, they can ask just like that for a 10 marker. Okay, primate locomotion can not mention in the syllabus, but it can be a potential topic. So these are the topics you have to read specifically, right? Yes. Now, we will start chapter 1.6. So did you guys get these things? Yeah. Even if anything misses in the class, you can just check the. That will take care. Yeah. Some facts might have been you may not have noted in running notes. Yeah. So chapter 1.6. Let's start with the geographical distribution logic. In syllabus also they have given geographical distribution, but what you guys read simply as part of geographical distribution is blindly mugging up sites. That's not the purpose for which they have given geographical distribution. That is also the reason why you feel difficult. People say you have to mug up sites, mug up sites. No, if you understand the logic, then mugging up sites should not be an issue at all. Got my point? Listen to the logic. What we are talking? Geographical distribution. Geographical distribution of what? Simple. Human paleontology is what we are studying, right? Human paleontology. Human paleontology means what we are studying? We are studying fossil humans. Human fossils. Means where we have evidences of this human fossils. It has a perfect logic for it. It has a perfect logic for it. First, let's start with Australopithecus. Australopithecus is the first fossil which is given in our syllabus. Where do we have this Australopithecus? First aspect you have to be aware is we have Australopithecus only in Africa. Do we have evidences of Australopithecus anywhere in the world? No, we have Australopithecus only in Africa. Only thing, some of them you have in South Africa, whereas some of them we also have evidences in Eastern Africa. That's it, isn't it? Let's say some of them are nothing but robust forms. We have evidences of robust forms little more in Eastern Africa, whereas we have evidences of gracile forms little more in South Africa. But don't think that we don't have any robust forms in South Africa or we don't have any gracile forms in Eastern Africa. This is a common mistake students commit. We assume things happen in boxes. It's not like that. And we get confused. What is written in the textbooks is the most predominant one. What is the most predominant fossil type in southern part of the Africa? It's not exactly South Africa, southern part of Africa. It is gracile forms. Like whatever this Africanus, affarensis. But that doesn't, then don't ask, sir, affarensis also is in Rift Valley. Of course it is in Rift Valley. Predominantly this, predominantly, especially in the eastern part of Africa, up to the central Africa, you have this plenty of robustus forms. So what happened to the robustus forms? Robustus forms have become extinct. Why robustus forms became extinct? Very good. Robustus forms have become extinct because of specialized diet. Specialized diet. So because of the specialized diet, so which is better for survival, generalized diet or specialized diet? Very simple. If you say, I am vegetarian, at any cost I will not eat non-vegetarian, and you are thrown in an island where you have to only hunt and eat, you will die first. Someone who is omnivorous will survive. Simple logic, right? So specialized diet led to extinction. Then what happened of Australopithecus? That is the reason if you see most of the sites of Australopithecus, you find them in Some Paranthropus forms, you have to mention the sites in West Africa, hardly 2-3 sites. Sorry, East Africa 2-3 sites, Central Africa 1 site, and 2-3 sites of South Africa. Okay, that's it. Need not mug up sites. Then what about the next one, which is not mentioned in the syllabus, but you all have to know, is Homo habilis. So where is this guy Homo habilis? Did this guy move out of Africa? Homo habilis, did he move out of Africa? No, he can't move out because he is still not perfectly bipedal, right? He is still not perfectly bipedal. So this guy cannot move or did not prefer to move beyond Africa. And this guy largely, you know, some believe he has just evolved from gracile Australopithecus. Some say he is gracile Australopithecus only, no need to give him separate classification, but let's assume this guy is a Homo species. And this guy is more popular for his although one tool tradition. People might argue, no, although one tool tradition is developed by Australopithecus Ghadi. Okay, might have started by these guys. We are not interested in who started, who popularized, who used extensively, who used predominantly. Homo habilis. Now, you find Homo habilis fossils also only in Africa. So, gradually, who comes next after this? Homo erectus. So, is this guy a perfect bipedal walker? Yes, this guy is a perfect bipedal walker. And by this time, he's a perfect bipedal walker. He's a perfect bipedal walker. And now he also has slightly more advanced tool, isn't it? This guy has Acheulean tools. With this Acheulean tools, with this energy efficient bipedal locomotion, okay, and probably a more intelligent brain, this guy started migrating, isn't it? He started migrating. He would have been to places like Georgia. Across the coast he would have traveled. Then from there he would have been to West Asia. You can find him in Central Asia. He also comes to South Asia. He also might have gone to Southeast Asia. A branch also might have gone to East Asia, isn't it? And some also would have gone to Europe, isn't it? That is why Australopithecus fossils, Homo erectus fossils you find all over the world. Simple logic, right? Let's say in Georgia also you have a Homo erectus fossil. Then Europe also we have evidences. Of course, in our syllabus only they gave this East Asian fossils like Peking man, and you have this Java man in Southeast Asia. Some say Neanderthalensis is a South Asian Homo erectus. I'll come to that, and I have not taken any stand on that. But the point I am trying to impress upon you is that this guy Homo erectus has traveled across the world because of his energy efficient bipedal locomotion and advanced tool culture called as Acheulean culture, which might have probably equipped him with decent hunting skills and better survival strategies, and also probably his understanding of fire might have allowed him to adapt to diverse environmental niches including cold climatic conditions. Is that clear? Yes. Now here comes a question called as Homo erectus problem. Homo erectus problem. So what is this Homo erectus problem? The problem starts with the time span of Homo erectus on this planet. This guy lived for 9 times more than what modern Homo sapiens lived. Homo erectus lived on this planet for 9 times more than what we have survived on. We are still surviving, of course. Means there is a lot of timeline. So several things have come. First is people say Homo erectus, no doubt, has gone to different places, and all these are nothing but the local variants of Homo erectus. Java man, Peking man in Georgia, that Manisi man, people say, and even Heidelbergensis, and some say, what do you call, in Africa he should be called as Homo ergaster. Original Homo erectus is one of South Asia. Okay, this is Homo georgicus or Namansi man. This is Homo javanicus, Peking man. Different names they have. That way. So the concept I want you to understand. Some believe that everything is Homo erectus only. They are just regional variants. There are no significant skeletal differences to call them as a separate species or even a subspecies is one line of argument. Other line of argument says no, it's not appropriate. Homo erectus, as it has walked to these places, it could be Europe or it could be to different parts of the world. There it has again independently evolved based on the local climatic conditions into distinct archaic Homo. In the past, we used to use this term archaic Homo sapiens, but now we are avoiding this rough usage of the term archaic Homo sapiens. We are calling it archaic Homo. Within archaic Homo, we again have early archaic Homo, and we have late archaic Homo. Late archaic Homo, early archaic Homo, late archaic Homo. What are these archaic Homo? No confusion, very simple. Any species that can be placed between Homo erectus or anything which falls between Homo erectus and Homo sapiens, we can call them as archaic Homo sapiens. In that also we have again early archaic Homo sapiens and late archaic Homo sapiens. So what we can assume is both this early archaic Homo sapiens or late archaic Homo sapiens might have probably evolved from Homo erectus himself. In our syllabus only they gave Homo neanderthalensis, they gave Homo rhodesiensis or Rhodesian man. Probably both of them could be placed anywhere between this. Both of them, we will see that, may fall under the classification of either this or this. Got? That's what. In the past, we used to use the term archaic Homo sapiens. But now we are removed this term sapiens. We are calling it archaic Homo. And this is Homo erectus. This is Homo sapiens. Early archaic Homo, late archaic Homo. Because they do not have features, or they have features which are a combination of Homo erectus and Homo sapiens. It's all about the degree. Early means more closer to this. Late means more closer to this. It's all about the proportionality. Got my point? So like that. Then comes Homo sapiens. Here it's not a deviation, it's a logical continuity. We have this theory of origin of modern Homo sapiens. Theory of origin of modern Homo sapiens. So you only tell me where did the origin of modern Homo sapiens occur? Origin of modern Homo sapiens happened in Africa, right? Why doubt about it? And what is the name of the theory that establishes it? Out of Africa theory. So it is now beyond doubt that modern Homo sapiens took their origin from Africa. Modern Homo sapiens took their origin from Africa. Okay. Genetic studies clearly establish that, and many advanced molecular anthropological techniques, which is a PYQ if you remember, establish beyond doubt that uh, establish beyond doubt that modern Homo sapiens took their origin in Africa. But there are add-on theories to this. One add-on theory is recent African origin with hybridization and assimilation. Recent African origin with hybridization and assimilation. This is more of a sequel, and there is a prequel to it called as African multi-regionalism. So what is this African multi-regionalism? Very simple. Within Africa, there are many archaic homos. Like Homo heidelbergensis. You may be thinking, sir, Homo heidelbergensis you mentioned in Europe. It is in Europe, but it walked little bit backward and it came till North Africa. Should it not walk? It can walk, right? It is a bipedal. So it came until, so not just Homo Heidelberg. Okay. The problem is we assume in linear lines. That's the reason we find this topic difficult. Otherwise, there is no topic which is more interesting than this. Then probably Homo Rhodesian man. There are many archaic Homo populations within Africa which has hybridized among themselves, which have mated among themselves, culminating into Homo sapiens. Okay? And from there, let's say we have some from North Africa. That's why we have the evidences of modern Homo sapiens in North Africa. We have in South Africa. We have everywhere, like places like Jebel Irhoud or places like Floresbad. And there is one place in Herto and Omo and Herto. In everywhere we have appearance of modern Homo sapiens. Try to understand. Modern Homo sapiens did not suddenly born one fine day. First ever evidence of modern Homo sapiens we had in Northern Africa at a place called Jebel Irhoud. Later we have evidence in somewhere in West Africa in East Africa in Ethiopia, in places like Omo and Herto. We also have evidences of modern Homo sapiens a little later in a place called as Floresbad in South Africa. The point I am trying to say is that appearance of modern Homo sapiens onto the evolutionary scene is not an overnight phenomenon. It took a lot of time for it to happen. Only after they have evolved in Africa, they have matured in Africa, it took them some time to move out of the Africa. They started walking out of the Africa, and they might have walked towards Europe. Who would have been welcoming them in Europe? Probably Neanderthal is waiting for them. Isn't it? One arm of Homo erectus walked to Europe. They might have evolved into Heidelberg. They in turn might have evolved into Neanderthal. Heidelberg might have got extinct, or some of the Heidelberg might have moved back again to Africa. But Homo neanderthal is still existing in Europe. So what happened? The interaction between these guys, Homo neanderthal and Homo erectus, they would have fought with each other, they would have killed each other, or they would have competed with each other, one would have lost in the competition, or they would have loved each other. Hybridization, exchange of genes, mating, isn't it? That's the reason Human Neanderthal Genome Project says that modern European populations or modern populations in non-African ancestry has evidences of Neanderthal genes. Which means it's not that all modern Homo sapiens went to Europe and killed all the European Neanderthals. No, they also have hybridized with them. That's the reason we have evidences of the Neanderthal genome in the modern Homo sapiens. Got my point? Some of them have gone to Asia. Asia, there are Denisovans waiting, other again archaic Homo. They would have hybridized with Denisovans. That is the reason, even in the present day Melanesians, we have evidences of modern Melanesians, we have evidences of Denisovan genes, Denisovan ancestry. So recent African origin with hybridization and assimilation, these genes got assimilated into the modern Homo gene pool. Modern human genome or modern Homo gene pool, they got assimilated. They have done whole genome sequencing using next generation sequencing techniques, and this next generation sequencing techniques, by I have done whole genome sequencing of Neanderthal, they have done whole genome sequencing of modern Homo sapiens. I'm not sure whether they have done for Denisovans or not. It clearly establishes that Africa is the point of origin. It establishes the migration routes. It establishes, the genetic polymorphism that occurred at different points of time in the course of human evolution. In the past, it was more of a guesswork. Now, with the onset of advanced genetic techniques like next generation sequencing, and when we have whole human genome sequenced and whole Neanderthal genome sequenced, these are no longer guessworks. Now, we can arrive at observations which are near precise. Got my point? Previously, it's all about assumptions, hypotheses, or imaginations. Genetics made our life easy and helped us in arriving at near correct conclusions. Got my point? So this is the whole, the whole scenario out of Africa theory. This is the prequel, African multi-regionalism. This is the sequel, recent African origin with hybridization and assimilation. And this captures the whole geographical movement of the, and this is how you have to remember. The sites are this. Okay, the sites are the places where humans have walked, humans have settled, humans have made use of the local environmental niches. Then if you try to mug it up like strictly through the names of the sites, definitely it will create that confusion or chaos. Okay, yes. Take 2 minutes time, recall what all we discussed. Okay, Homo heidelbergensis, in your syllabus they gave as variant of European variant of Homo erectus, but current understanding is very clear, no confusion, no confusion. Currently we consider Homo heidelbergensis as early archaic Homo. What about Rhodesiensis? Rhodesiensis also is early archaic Homo. Then who is late archaic Homo according to your syllabus? Neanderthal. Neanderthal is late archaic Homo. Late archaic Homo. Even Denisovan is also a late archaic Homo. What about this dragon man which you read in current affairs? Where should we put this fellow dragon man? Probably late, late archaic Homo only. Okay. We can put these guys under middle Pleistocene. These guys will come under late Pleistocene to Holocene. Just write down these numbers, that will give you that clarity. Early archaic Homo, 7 lakh to 4 lakh years. Early archaic Homo, 7 lakh to 4 lakh years. We call this phase as middle Pleistocene phase. Middle Pleistocene phase. What about late archaic Homo? Late archaic Homo started from 4 lakh, and when Neanderthal got extinct? When Neanderthal got extinct? It's a commonsensical question. In Upper Paleolithic we have Neanderthal. Neanderthal dominated the scenario in Middle Paleolithic, right? End of Middle Paleolithic is the beginning of Upper Paleolithic, common sense. Who dominated Middle Paleolithic mouse-teeth tool industry? Neanderthal. Up to 40,000 years, 39,000 years also we have evidences of Neanderthal. 39,000. So late archaic Homo continued up to 4 lakh to 40,000 years. Now observe these numbers carefully. Early Homo sapiens. Early Homo sapiens. 3,50,000 years to 1 lakh years. Early Homo sapiens. Underline that. Early Homo sapiens. So can I say that late archaic Homo and early Homo sapiens, there is a significant overlap? Yes, both of them coexisted for very long. Later Homo sapiens, 1 lakh to 40,000 years onwards. You see them and they continued. 1 lakh to 40,000 years and they continued. And if you observe carefully, most of the early Homo sapien evidences we have only in Africa. I told it, Jebel-ir-Houd, Omo, Herto, Florisbad in South Africa, Omo and Herto in East Africa, Jebel-ir-Houd in North Africa, all these early Homo sapiens. So 1.6 is a very easy topic if you understand it through logic, geographic logic. If you understand, what is it? It's all about movement of these people. Starting at somewhere, they walk, they move, they settle, they move to some other place, like that. Okay. It is like this. Africa is the source, Levant or Arabia is the exit gate. Isn't it? Europe is the hub of Neanderthals. Asia is the hub for some evolved Homo erectus, also called as some archaic homos like Homo neanderthal. In paper to what we call them, some call them as evolved Homo erectus, Homo neanderthalensis. Some call them as archaic Homo. We have both distinctions. Some call them as evolved Homo erectus, some call them as archaic Homo, isn't it? Because they have a combination of both Homo erectus and Homo sapien like features. In Asia, we have Denisovans, evolved Homo erectus species like that. Okay, yes. So it's a simple logic only, yeah. Now we will get into physical characteristics. Physical characteristics. People read this for 4 days. You should not spend so much time on it. It's pure common sense, right? Let's say in our syllabus, what they gave: Australopithecus, Erectus, Neanderthal, Sapiens. This is what, of course, they gave. Rhodesiensis, of course, they gave Rhodesiensis. Limb proportion, pelvis, foot, body build. That's it. Important things to be remembered. Australopithecus. You all know that Australopithecus has long arms, curved fingers, because it has not yet become fully bipedal, right? It still has certain features of the transitional forms. It's not yet fully bipedal. That's why long arms, curved fingers. Lower limbs shorter than modern humans. Simple. Then come to pelvis or foot. Bipedal pelvis, valgus means inward twisted knee. Foot partly human-like, isn't it? But still it has climbing features. Foot arches still did not appear. Foot arches came only in this guy, right? Then body build, small body, right? Small body, chest is funnel shaped. Sexual dimorphism is still present. Sexual dimorphism. So bipedal but not fully modern terrestrial. Just started bipedalism. Then Homo erectus. Perfect bipedal, right? Perfect bipedal. So arms became short. Almost modern type of limb proportions. Then endurance walker, runner, foot mechanics are very modern, tall, narrow body, nothing like a conical chest or anything like that, isn't it? Very similar to modern body plan, except for the skull characteristics, cranial characteristics. Rhodesiensis is a perfect bipedal. Okay, and we did not get many skulls of Rhodesian man also. Many lower limb we did not get. So what all we know about Rhodesiensis is Definitely, when compared to Homo erectus, Rhodesiensis is more evolved in cranium, less evolved when compared to Homo sapiens. So repeatedly you can write just those points. Homo neanderthalensis, short forearms and lower legs are also, because it has a stocky build, right? Stocky build because it is predominantly European climate. Predominantly European climate, less like modern day Eskimos or Inuits, stocky build they have. That's why, relatively forearms and distal arms are shorter, relatively shorter, and even lower legs also for that matter is shorter. Simple, it follows the Bergman's rule, right? Bergman's rule, body size should be more when compared to the limb proportion. Body size should be more, body mass should be more, and it also follows that Allen's rule of shorter extremities. Ecological anthropology, right? Simple logic. Pelvis relatively wider, joints are very powerful, isn't it? Because they have to run on a hard ecosystem, right? That frozen soil, subsoil, they have to run. So powerful joints, short, stocky built, robust climate, archaic human. Then Homo sapiens. Definitely Homo sapiens is more slender, more gracile, lighter skeleton, better ability to adapt to different features. Foot modern, pelvis modern, everything about him is modern, and with distal limbs being longer. That gave him almost 100% perfect bipedalism. So physical features here I confined only to limb proportions. Okay, this one slide, if you just read for 5 minutes, don't mug up, just read this in a flow. If you read separately each topic, it's going to waste you a lot of time. Bring all at one place, read it in a column format, done, dusted. Okay, yes. Then let's get into skull. Okay, Australopithecus, you all know that it is still having prognathism. Homo erectus also has prognathism. Rhodesiensis has prognathism. By Neanderthal, yes, prognathism has largely declined. By the time of Homo sapiens, face has become almost flat. Flat face by Homo sapiens. Same logic, right? Face is not flat. Prognathism. Prognathism declines. It's all about saying relative to this, relative to this, relative to this. Why should you mug up everything? Then, brow ridge. Definitely they have slightly slender brow. Brow is more prominent in by the time of Rhodesiensis. Brow ridge appears in Homo erectus, and by Neanderthal time brow further declined substantially. By the time of modern human, brow has almost gone. Isn't it? Only thing here, it's not that they don't have a brow. They have a strong brow, but for certain reasons, by the time of Homo erectus, brow has become much more massive. Here also there is brow ridge, and decline by the time of modern Homo sapiens, brow ridge is almost gone. Then comes the shape of the void. Void means shape of the skull. Look how it has become rounded, because frontal cortex, prefrontal cortex developed, occipital lobe developed, everything developed, rounded brain, rounded skull. By this time, more or less close to a chimpanzee brain, just close to a chimpanzee brain, slightly more evolved but still not perfectly rounded, isn't it? And gradually moving towards the size of the human brain, further moving towards the size of the brain, but still the occipital bun is there. This has become better rounded. So remember only 4 to 5 things, practice those 4 to 5 things, then mm, that is how you have to prepare this particular topic. Okay, then that's the most common mistake students do, is reading all of them separately. Never do that. Read all of them at one go. You will find it the most easiest among all. So Homo sapiens, high rounded skull, reduced brow, flat face. First appearance of chin in, when did the chin starts to appear first? Neanderthal. Neanderthal have a chin. I think here it's a wrong entry. Neanderthal has a chin. First appearance, but first perfection of the chin happens in Homo sapiens. Appearance in Neanderthal itself. Take Neanderthal and says long, low skull. Skull is still lower. It is long, but low. Long is nothing but, how do you? Skull has 3 dimensions, right? Length, breadth, and height. Length is antero-posterior. This is length. Height is top to bottom. Breadth is between those two earlobes. It is breadth. Low means what? With height. With regard to height, it is low. Broad means what? With regard to width, it is broader. So like that, length, breadth and height. Skull has three dimensions. It's a three-dimensional structure, right? So long, low, skull. Long with regards to length, low with regards to height. Then occipital bun is there, slight mid-facial projection is there, chin appears, I just correct that. Homo rhodesiensis, skull is still archaic only, very massive continuous brow ridge. Homo erectus also long low vault, thick cranial bone, strong brow ridge, small cranial vault, face is prognathous, large chewing apparatus, isn't it? So it just evolved. So the masticatory apparatus, the mandible, the maxillae, the prognathosum is still there. This is for Australopithecus. Okay, yes. So generally the trend is like that. Encephalization means size of the brain increased. So just write that point, size of the brain increased, increased, increased. Facial reduction, face, size of the face reduced, reduced, reduced. By the time of Homo it became flat. Dental reduction, size of the teeth, size of the teeth decreased, decreased, decreased. Shape of the is in everything it is parabolic shape only, right? Dentition is parabolic shape from Australopithecus itself. Only in chimpanzees, gorillas, you have a U-shaped dentition. Only thing you have to say, size of the teeth reduced, reduced, reduced. Cranium has become more rounded, more rounded, more rounded, perfectly rounded, isn't it? So Neanderthals, yeah, just has a robust brain. Size of the brain of Neanderthal sometimes reaches that of modern Homo sapiens brain. It could be because of a local climatic adaptation. It's not any major evolutionary distraction. That's one exception. Okay. Yes. So like that, I have given one. This will be repetitive as we have already discussed. But for Australopithecus, Homo erectus, Homo rhodesiensis, Homo neanderthalensis, Homo sapiens, I have brought all into single, what do you call, in one slide, so you can easily remember. So my sincere suggestion: don't spend so much time on this chapter, especially for reading physical features. You should be reading more conceptually, like how migrations happen, what are the migratory routes, where they have settled, what are the sites, what are the timelines. That is where you have to ideally invest your time. But students waste a disproportionate amount of time reading the physical features as if it's a difficult and conceptual. No. Same physical features will appear in everyone. Only thing, either increase or decrease. Such a commonsensical thing, we tend to waste time on it. Don't do that. Just remember those 4 or 5 features and tell whether they are progressing or not. That's it. Real focus should be, as I am repeatedly saying, on geographical movements, sites where they settled, cultural aspects, applying 1.4 evolutionary concepts. This is the real analytical and conceptual reading of this particular chapter 1.6, okay, which most of the students miss. So we discussed theories of origin of modern humans, right? I think I did not discuss African multi-regionalism, right? Multi-regionalism. Multi-regionalism is now debunked. Multi-regionalism is very simple. Homo erectus, bipedal, moved to different parts of the world, and multi-regionalism thesis believes that Homo sapiens evolved independently in different continents. Now, modern genetics have completely debunked this concept. Absolutely no. Modern Homo sapiens took its origin in Africa. And what is the most accepted? Recent African origin with hybridization and assimilation. Okay? But there is a prequel called as African multi-regionalism. That's it. It's as simple as that. So I have included the names of the thinkers also. Chris Stringer himself in the recent days confirmed this. Chris Stringer, who is very popular for out of Africa theory, by doing modern genetic analysis, confirmed that recent African origin with hybridization assimilation is appropriate. Okay, yes. So remember those names. F.H. Smith is important, Wolpoff is important, and again, Pan-African model also is proposed by Chris Stringer. Yeah, this we will spend 5 minutes. Advanced molecular anthropological techniques. Very important. It's not just because it's a PYQ, but a serious aspirant should be aware of these names. Need not be aware of in-depth how they work and all, but these names you should be aware. Advanced molecular anthropological techniques, but starting from chapter 1.4 to 1.5 to 1.6 till completion of chapter 12, everywhere this will come. Okay, first, yeah, mitochondrial DNA studies. Mitochondrial DNA studies. What is the fact we all should be aware? Mitochondrial DNA transmission occurs only across the mother's line, isn't it? Mitochondrial DNA inheritance across only the mother's line. Simple and commonsensical, right? When a sperm fuses with ova, it leaves its tail behind, it leaves its cytoplasm behind. What enters into the ova is only the genetic material. So, ova's genetic material is fusing with the genetic material of the sperm, but cytoplasm is of the ova itself. Cytoplasm is of the ova itself. Only the nuclear material of the sperm is entering into the ova. Be very clear. Only the nuclear material of the sperm is entering into the ova, and nuclear material of the sperm is fusing with the nuclear material of the ova, whereas the cytoplasm is of mothers. Where is the mitochondrial DNA? Mitochondrial DNA is not in the nucleus. Mitochondrial DNA is in the cytoplasm. Cell has cytoplasm and nucleus, right? We all think that DNA, RNA exists only in the nucleus. No, there are some genetic material in the mitochondria also. Mitochondria exists in the cytoplasm, which is outside the nucleus. So, by studying this mitochondrial DNA, tracing it back, we can to some extent understand the evolution. Simple reason, because mitochondrial DNA does not have genetic recombination or chromosomal crossing over. So it is less susceptible to change across the generations. It is less susceptible to, it has less variations. Simple. It has less variations when compared to nuclear DNA. So we can easily trace back the mitochondrial DNA. When we try to trace back the mitochondrial DNA, what is understood is all the mitochondrial DNA is ending at one mitochondrial eve. One mitochondrial eve, and that mitochondrial eve or mitochondrial, what do you call, she is grandmother for all of us, she is in Africa. So entire human population descended from a particular African women or a group of African women. That is mitochondrial DNA studies. Just like that, Y chromosomal DNA studies are also important. Y chromosome, who has, men or women? Yeah, men has Y chromosome, women have XX, right? Men have XY. Just like mitochondrial DNA, Y chromosomal DNA is subjected to relatively less genetic recombination or chromosomal crossing. Relatively less, not absolutely no, relatively less. So that also is used as a means of studying human migration, origin, appearance of polymorphisms, likewise. Okay, so that is one, mitochondrial DNA studies, Y chromosomal DNA studies. Then you also have this single nucleotide polymorphisms. These are the polymorphisms that appear at the level of single nucleotide. We also have this short tandem repeat analysis, variable number tandem repeat analysis. Where do we have this SNTRs and VNTRs? We have this on non-coding part of the DNA, right? DNA has coding and non-coding part. Coding part of DNA we call it as genes. One gene usually counts for one protein. One gene, one protein hypothesis we have. Non-coding part of the DNA is called as, we used to call it as junk DNA. Non-coding part of the DNA has this STRs and VNTRs. These are nothing but a repeated sequence of the nucleotides. All these days we used to think that it has no role, no function. But one important function we have identified is it gives distinctiveness to the humans. No two individuals have same STR or VNTR repeats. That's how it helps in identification of the individual. It is used in forensic anthropology. It is yes, except for identical twins. No two individuals have similar same STR or VNTR repeats. Okay, so that is how non-coding DNA will help in establishing the identity of the individuals, and certain polymorphisms which are appearing in the STR and VNTR regions, which are also called as microsatellite regions, helps us in understanding origin of variations and helps us in understanding migration and other evolutionary patterns. So that is another advanced molecular anthropological technique, single nucleotide polymorphism study. microsatellite study like short tandem repeat studies, isn't it? In India also for crime detection we are using STR. CCMB is using STR analysis only. And even this United States FBI, Federal Bureau of Investigation, their code is software is based on STR analysis. And Central Forensic Research Institute also is developing this STR analysis, isn't it? What is DNA fingerprinting? Genetic DNA profiling or DNA fingerprinting is nothing but STR. Means each of us have our own digital fingerprint. Sorry, our own DNA fingerprint. Fingerprint means it is across all the individuals. It is not the same. It is different in each individual, establishing our identity. That's why its utility is in forensic anthropology, and to some extent it can also help in disease diagnosis, disease detection. Likewise, okay. Other aspects we'll talk in 9.3, 9.4 because we have genome-wide association studies, genetic association studies, and there I'll mention these things again. Then most recent one and the popular ones like next generation sequencing, NGS. Next generation sequencing helps us in constructing the whole genomes. When we have whole genomes, which means entire repertoire of whole genes and their functions and all, that also will help us in understanding the evolution in a better way. Okay, so these are some of the advanced molecular anthropological techniques: mitochondrial DNA analysis, Y chromosome and DNA analysis, single nucleotide polymorphism analysis, STRs, VNTRs, next generation sequencing techniques. All of this will help us in better understanding. And there is another evolving branch called as proteomics. Proteomics is nothing but understanding the protein diversity. It is simple. If there is diversity in genes, what is protein? Protein is a gene product, right? Protein is nothing but a gene product. One gene will code for one protein. Protein is a gene product in its simplest sense. If there is diversity in the proteins, which shows there is diversity in the genes also, right? If there is diversity in the gene product, there will be diversity in the genes also. You can go backward and accordingly, and that's why in your syllabus they have given all these things. What? Immunoglobulin diversity, haptoglobin diversity, G6PD diversity, or transferrin diversity. What are all these? These are nothing but proteins. These are nothing but gene products. They are asking us to understand the diversity in them. When there is diversity in the gene products, obviously it shows an indication in the genetic diversity. The whole purpose of physical anthropology is to understand the human physical diversity. Diversity is not just at the phenotypic level. Diversity is at the cellular level, diversity is at the cell surface level, diversity is at the nuclear level. Diversity at the nuclear level, VNTR, STR, all these things show, SNP show the diversity at the individual level. Diversity at the gene product level. Gene product level means proteins, enzymes, hormones, all these establish diversity. That is also a type of diversity. Diversity at the cell surface level. Antigens on the cell surface. A antigen, A blood group. B antigen, B blood group. No A, no B, O blood group. Both A antigen, B antigen on the cell surface, AB blood group. What are macro MHC complex, MHC complex, major histocompatibility complex? Nothing but they are again antigens on the cell surface. So it is very, very simple if you understand commonsensically. The whole physical anthropology is about understanding the physical diversity. Some diversity at the phenotypic level, some diversity at the gene level, some diversity at the cell surface antigen level, some in the gene product level. Ultimately, everything boils down to understanding of the diversity. Okay, yes. So that's it. Mitochondrial DNA, Y chromosome and DNA, and this whole genome sequencing or next generation sequencing, SNP analysis, and human proteomics. This much is sufficient. Then we will do this small discussion and end this session. This is a PYQ actually. So, classic Neanderthals, progressive Neanderthals. Yeah, Mount Carmel man, La Chapelle aux Saints. Classical Neanderthal, La Chapelle aux Saints. Mount Carmel man, progressive Neanderthal. So, initially it was thought that both of them are distinct based on the study of skulls. Limb proportions, not much differences. Based on the skull studies, initially it was understood that they are distinct subspecies. They are distinct subspecies. And what led to this distinctiveness? As I already mentioned, geographical isolation. because of geographical isolation, interbreeding did not happen for long. Interbreeding did not happen for long, and there are aggressive climatic changes. Glaciation further got intensified to the north of Pyrenees Mountains. So classic Neanderthals developed more Neanderthal-like features. More Neanderthal-like features means again short, stocky build, strong jaw, robust skull. Likewise, that's how they are the Neanderthal features. Nothing more, nothing less. So progressive Neanderthals appeared that they are not similar to classical Neanderthals. And because of the fact that they are living in a slightly different climatic conditions, especially in the parts of the West Asia, some of them also migrated up to North Africa. So they have evolved some features which resemble that of the late archaic Homo, and some also developed feature that resembles early Homo sapiens. So that was the confusion, and there is a proposal that Neanderthal directly gave rise to modern Homo sapiens, but that is now debunked. Now we don't have any evidences to say that. Progressive Neanderthal directly gave rise to modern Homo line. What is clearly established? It is the African species, multiple African species within Africa mated with each other and contributed to the modern Homo sapiens. And Neanderthal's contribution to the modern Homo sapiens is not significant. For that matter, Homo heidelberg, which has migrated from Europe to the North Africa, might have evolved into other archaic Homo species, late archaic Homo species, and might have contributed to Homo sapiens, but definitely Homo neanderthal's direct contribution to anatomically modern humans is having no proof. But of course, later date, anatomically modern human has become more modern by assimilating and by interbreeding with Neanderthal, which is established by Neanderthal Genome Project also. Is that clear? Yes. So it is not relevant. See, all these things like Homo erectus problem, Neanderthal problem, which we generally read in older textbooks, occurred because of lack of knowledge of genetic level study, isn't it? There, they relied only on the skulls and observations of the skulls. That was a bit confusing, that was a bit overlapping. So, and the skull quality is also not good. So, it led to debates, controversies. But what modern genetics has settled there, it settled all the debates with significant precision. Now, this theory is debunked. What theory is debunked? That Neanderthal directly contributed to the modern Homo line is debunked. We don't have any evidences. Okay, yes. So before we end, quickly somebody tell what factors led to extinction of Neanderthals?
Climatic conditions.
Only climatic conditions?
Complete extinction.
Okay.
Lack of hybridization.
No, they hybridized.
More homo.
They hybridized so much that they got extinct. Yes. Isn't it?
What is it? They breeded in themselves.
Yes. No. Modern Homo sapiens interacted with Neanderthals and assimilated and lost. Okay. So this is one beautiful image. Let me share for online students also. Okay, it's already shared. Sahelanthropus, Australopithecus farensis, Africanus, Habilis. We did not put Paranthropus here because Paranthropus did not contribute any meaningfully. Georgicus, some say it is an African variant. Sorry, it's Homo erectus variant. Some consider the distinct species. Ergaster, an African variant of Homo erectus. Erectus himself. Antecessor, not written in our books, but antecessor also is an important early archaic Homo. Early archaic Homo. Another early archaic Homo, Heidelbergensis. Floresiensis, late archaic Homo. Floresiensis got extinct in a small island. Neanderthal, Homo sapiens. If you observe these timelines, this guy coexisted with this, not this. So proving that this guy would have probably given to this. He coexisted with this in Homo erectus also. Some Homo erectus survived till 30,000 also in East Asia. Yes, Java man. Some say it could be dragon man, but Homo erectus evolved into later archaic Homo sapiens. So Homo sapiens coexisted with all these things, but still survived. Okay. Yes. Look at the Cro-Magnon man, built wise, tool wise, culturally the way he has clothed himself. When compared to Heidelbergensis or Neanderthal, Cro-Magnon is displaying advanced physical characteristics and also cultural characteristics. Isn't it? He's using a blade tool, right? He's using a blade tool. Neanderthal is not using a blade tool. Heidelbergensis still is not using any significant tools, right? I also want to discuss the difference between Peking man and Java man. Or try to read on it all. It's an important fact. You should not ignore that. I just want to discuss Neanderthal extinction once, because there is a possibility that that question might appear this year. Yeah, let's quickly revise this. Neanderthal extinction. All these factors contributed to Neanderthal. Parasites and pathogens. Okay. There is a gradual decline of the glaciation. There is a gradual beginning of pluviation. Very gradual, did not happen because only by 12,000 Holocene real pluviation happened. Till then glaciation only. But these are the last stages of the glaciation. So parasites increased and pathogens also would have increased because of the contact with the modern Homo sapiens. Competitively replaced by modern Homo sapiens. Competitively excluded by Gauss's principle, competitive exclusion. Replacement means outright killing. There is a difference. Exclusion means not able to compete because of the same ecological requirement. In exclusion, they won't kill. In replacement, they kill. Exclusion is like very similar to what modern day pigeons do to other birds. Pigeons won't kill other birds. Pigeons extract all the resources, so other birds automatically die. Same concept. Then extinction by interbreeding with early modern human populations. Natural catastrophes like volcanic eruptions or failure or inability to adapt to the climate change. All these have contributed to the death of the or extinction of the Neanderthals. Parasites and pathogens, competitive replacement, competitive exclusion, extinction by interbreeding with early modern human populations, natural catastrophes like volcanic eruptions, and failure or inability to adapt to climate change. Okay. There are some, in our Kurnool district also there is a place, right? Jwalapuram, are you aware? Between 70,000 to 60,000 years ago, you have plenty of Middle Paleolithic tools of Mousterian traditions buried in that 10,000 years. There is a continuous volcanic eruption. There are heaps of ashes. In that ashes, some of the Middle Paleolithic tools got buried and they got preserved. Recently, they are excavating. The archaeological department is excavating and trying to study more about those ashes which got deposited during the volcanic eruptions. So, Neanderthals have intentional burials in Shanidar of Iraq. Palynology studies prove that. Palynological studies prove that they have intentional burials. Parasites and pathogens I already mentioned. Competitive replacement means yes, they could not compete with, and they also killed with better tools and all. Gender based division labor is less. That's another important point. An important cultural feature. Gender based division of labor is not seen in Neanderthal. Gender based division of labor is not seen. Okay. Physical traits also, it is more suitable for big game hunting, but because of climate change, big game animals died and replaced by small game. So their physical feature is not suited to hunt small game animals. So that also led to their extinction. Okay. So they neither have suitable technology or tools, nor do they have adaptive physics and physiology. Okay. Also their limb morphology is not suitable for efficient walking and running in a newly formed ecosystem. Okay. Whereas Homo sapiens have this advantage. Competitive exclusion, extinction by interbreeding. So all these are the factors responsible for extinction of Neanderthal, extinction of Neanderthal. Okay, read this topic. And yeah, as I said, Homo erectus, between Homo erectus and Homo sapiens, you have this transitional forms. And Cro-Magnon, Grimaldi, Shansrid, they are generally avoiding asking questions on the topic in physical anthropology in 1.6. They are asking those questions in 1.8 archaeological sense, because by that time skeletal features there is not much difference. All of them have, because that is a late evidences. Now we have evidences of modern Homo sapiens, this Zebelirhaud or Homo herto. These are way earlier. When compared to that, this 30,000, 40,000 upper Paleolithic culture skeletons or skulls, they are much later. They are just included in the syllabus because they are of the European fossils and we are just studying them. Otherwise, physical characteristics wise, there is nothing significant we usually study, but I'm not asking you to neglect, but focus little more on their cultures. Upper Paleolithic cultures is little more important than actual physical characteristics of the Upper Paleolithic, right? So this marks the completion of this discussion. Today I thought I'll also touch upon 1.8, but paucity of time I could not do. We can do it in the next session. Yeah, next session we will. You also read and come a little bit, so you can pick things faster. I can also go faster. You can get more value added content than me discussing basics. You got my point? This session should be more for value addition than me discussing basics like a regular classroom session. It should be more of value addition, right? More diagrams, more value addition. Yeah, I'll stop the session. Thank you.